I see a large idea on the horizon. You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Overnight success. The Blazenator 3000. Double blade. Right. That's misinformation.
Marking clearing order inbound.
That's just wrong.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Pump it up. Trust the experts. Vibe coding. We are experts. Founder mode. Vibe coding.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Experts.
UAV online.
Glaze. Double glaze. Triple glaze. Double kill. Vibe code. Wrong. Pump is up. Glaze.
Team deathmatch.
We are experts. Triple glaze. That's just wrong. Right.
Marking clearing order inbound.
Pump it up.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Strike one. Strike two. Activate Golden Retriever mode. Trust the experts.
Marking clearing order inbound.
Vibe coded.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Founder mode.
No way. You're watching TBPN! Today is Friday, January 9th, 2026. We are live from the TBPN Ultradome, the Temple of Technology, the Fortress of Finance, the capital of capital. Let me tell you about ramp.com. Time is money. Save both. Easy to use corporate cards, bill pay, accounting, and a whole lot more all in one place. I forgot in the Vanity Fair profile that we were pitching Julia Ramp so much. He actually put it in the profile. It was very, very funny. Anyway, if you haven't had a chance to read, we were in Vanity Fair yesterday. It's a fun piece, little whirlwind tour of a show that happened maybe 6 months ago. So a lot of things have changed, but it's a good snapshot.
But she got up to speed.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Anyway, we have a massive show for you today, folks. $15 billion raised by Andreessen Horowitz. We have a bunch of folks. We have 4 members.
I'm going to hit the gong Horowitz. Just because.
Hit the gong, warm it up. You got to warm it up because we got to hit it 15 times when we have Jen, Alex, David, George, and of course, Ben Horowitz coming on the show. Hit that app-loving gong, Jordy. Linear, of course, meet the system for modern software development. Linear is a purpose-built tool for planning and building products. We also have Jeremy Ontiveros from SemiAnalysis coming on to explain energy, to explain data center build-out and the gas turbine infrastructure that's going into those. He did a great interview with Ben Thompson that dropped yesterday. We're going to dig in and go deep into apparently, there's a bunch of fascinating things. Apparently, there's like 10 terawatts of requests for data center capacity, which is like way more than anyone would ever build. But it's because of this weird dynamic of you have to ask for more than you need because you might not get it. And there's a whole bunch of interesting things. He, of course, broke the story that Meta had completely changed their data center design. They were optimizing for sort of energy efficiency before. Now they're much more focused on speed of development and scale. And so we're going to be taking you all over the place today, but we're going to start with Steve Jobs, Apple. We're going back into Cupertino because there's a rumor that Tim Cook might step down sooner than expected. So this comes from Tim Cook. His compensation, we've talked about it a lot, $74.29 million per year. His salary is $3 million. Stock awards, $57 million. Non-equity incentive compensation. He gets a $12 million bonus if he does well. He gets $21,000 in 401k. Personal use of private jet, $800K on that. That's nice to see.
Only $800K?
Vacation cash out of $56K. Security expenses. They're paying $900,000 a year to secure him. That's got to be a whole team of people. Probably some jacked tier 1 operators following him everywhere he goes. But he is rumored to be out. Apple Track says Apple CEO Tim Cook has told senior leaders that he is tired and would like to reduce his workload. Rumors suggest he could.
I doubt they wanted that quote specifically.
Yeah,
to leak.
But it did via the New York Times. So rumors suggest he could announce a plan to retire as early as this year. Of course, the rumor is that John Turnus might step into that role. Mac Rumors has a story here. With Tim Cook having recently turned 65 years old and a number of other senior Apple executives having already departed in recent months or heading for the exits, there has been a significant focus on Apple's plans for who will succeed Cook as CEO. I was hoping for a Warren Buffett third act from Cook. I was hoping for him to just say, I'm just hitting my stride, 65 to 95, that's where I'm going to do my best work.
That's my window. You haven't seen any compounding yet.
It's a completely underrated era for business leaders. If you can stay in the game and continue to compound from 65 to 95, that's where the sweet spot is. You just get ready to lock in, not check out. But he might be.
We love to joke about him being underpaid. I actually think he is, or he has been.
Seriously.
But
for how big of a company is and what he's done to the stock.
The determinism of Tim Cook coming in and just absolutely cooking
he's
for
cooked.
As long as he has, it will always be remembered.
Yeah. So several recent reports have identified Apple's senior vice president of hardware engineering, John Turnus, as likely to be named the next Apple CEO. And the New York Times has now shared a profile of Turnus with some context on his expertise and how he's viewed within the company. According to sources who spoke with the New York Times, Apple has begun accelerating its planning for Tim Cook's succession last year, with Cook having expressed a desire to reduce his workload, while software chief Craig Federighi, services chief Eddie Q, marketing head Greg Jaws and retail HR chief Deidre O'Brien have all reportedly been seen as potential candidates. Turnus appears to have shot to the front of the pack, with Cook likely to remain as chairman of the company's board of directors. Oh, so he's not completely out to pasture. He'll be in the boardroom. Turnus is known for his expertise as an engineer, having worked on many of Apple's devices although he is known, quote, more for maintaining products than developing new ones. Big question about what the next decade or two of Apple's product roadmap actually looks like. How many more new products do they need? They sort of have one thing in every category. If we go through a major form factor shift, that could be an issue. But in general, if you have someone who's really good at maintaining products and keeping dominant market share, driving up margins, that could be the right person for the job.
Yeah.
Quote about John Turnus: he's a nice guy. Let's hear it from nice guys. Sometimes nice guys finish first. You know, they always say nice guys finish last. I think it's a bit of fake news. This is from former Apple engineer Cameron Rogers. Quote about John Turnus: he's someone you want to hang out with. I love it. He's just a good hang. Everyone loves him because he's great. Has he made any hard decisions? No. Taking shots at your boy. Hey, we just like hanging out with the guy. We just like hanging out. Has he had to do any real work ever? No. Has he made a single hard decision in his life? No. I'm sure that's not true. But it does characterize his role, I guess. He hasn't been in the CEO seat, so he probably hasn't had to make crazy decisions like, should we launch Apple Vision Pro now or later? You know, he's not the one. He's just like, you told me to launch it, I got it done, right? That's his role.
Should we make the iPhone less durable?
That's a hard decision. Are there hard problems he's solved in hardware? Also, no. What? This is an insane quote. Wow. Turnus and others may quibble with that assessment. However, as Turnus has been involved with a number of innovative products over the years, including spearheading effort to develop the iPhone Air and working on the upcoming foldable iPhone. That's exciting. Turnus is seen as a natural successor to Cook, even with an even temperament, strong attention to detail, and an intimate knowledge of Apple's supply chain. That's obviously very good. But he may not bring the visionary focus and willingness to take risks that Steve Jobs had, leading to debate among Apple employees about exactly what type of leader.
We need to get the Gurminator on.
We do. Yeah.
Nick, can you reach out to Mark Gurman to try to get him on the show Monday?
Let's talk through all of these things. There's so much to talk about here. Before we continue our conversation, let me tell you about the New York Stock Exchange. Want to change the world? Raise capital at the New York Stock Exchange. So there's this question. Will John Turnus, if he steps into the role of CEO of Apple, will he bring the visionary focus and willingness to take risks that Steve Jobs had? That's a tall order. I think Tim Cook's executed extremely well. He hasn't it doesn't really seem like he's tried to bring a visionary focus. He's been the operator.
He's a supply chain visionary.
He's visionary in his own way.
Yeah.
But you were thinking, and we've been discussing, this need for a Steve Jobs of AI, a visionary leader in AI. We have a number of household name type CEOs, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Dario Amodei, Demis at Google DeepMind. But we don't quite have that Steve Jobs. Maybe that's too tall of an order, but you still think it's necessary. So walk me through your thinking. Before you do, let me tell you about Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform that grows with your business and lets you sell in seconds, online, in-store, on mobile, on social, on marketplaces, and now with AI agents.
Everybody's worried about not having a job because of AI. Well, AI needs jobs too. They need a Steve Jobs.
Yeah. I didn't get that. That's good.
We've talked about this a little bit this week. I tried to summarize it today in the newsletter, and I'll kind of read through a little bit. So I went back and looked at the history of the phrase techlash. It was originally coined by Adrian Wooldridge in The Economist in 2013. He correctly predicted that, quote, the big developments of 2014 will be the growing peasants' revolt against the sovereigns of cyberspace. The Silicon elite will cease to be regarded as geeks who happen to be filthy rich and become filthy rich people who happen to be geeks. over the coming years, he was entirely correct. It was actually in 2018 that Techlash was the runner-up word of the year.
No way.
So he called it perfectly. Obviously, you had the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which is actually finally going to be dramatized this year with the Social Network 2.
That's coming out this year. Do we have a release date yet for that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But it is in the works. And then, just growing concerns about monopoly power, privacy, democracy, censorship.
Really quickly, Tyler, October 9th, 2026?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing as well.
There we go. Okay, we do.
Okay. Book the tickets now. It's going to be entertaining.
Book it.
Probably great.
This would be a good, we
Good
should
locking
organize,
music.
we should, actually, I don't know. I'm not sure that this movie is, I expect this movie to hit like 10%.
Yeah.
Or potentially negative in comparison to the Social Network one.
I agree.
And so I think it might be the kind of thing you get a bunch of people to go, and it's just like, okay, that was
the Social Network.
Fun.
The original movie is a really good Rorschach test for are you going to have a good time in tech? Like if you ask someone who is thinking about working at a company or a tech startup, like, what do you think of the Social Network? And they're like, oh, I thought it was like awful and like I hated all of it and there were no heroes. Well, they're probably not going to enjoy tech. But if they came away from it being like, oh, well, it's actually really inspiring because he just coded a thing in his dorm room that became really big. And yes, there was drama and fights over who gets what on the cap table, but even Eduardo Saverin became a multi-billionaire, so, sort of an aim for the moon, land amongst the stars situation. You could read it both ways, but I think most tech insiders, if you ask them about the Social Network, they were like, that was inspiring. I listened to the music all the time. It inspired me to grind harder, basically.
Real quick, happy birthday to Techno Chief in the chat.
Happy birthday.
Day 1, 2. Happy birthday to you.
Gemini 3 Pro, Google's most intelligent model yet, state-of-the-art reasoning, next-level vibe coding, and deep multimodal understanding. That's a good
anyways, I'll continue. So first, Techlash is all about how is this impacting our mental health? How is this impacting our democracy? The foundations of our country, society, privacy, censorship, et cetera. The second Techlash has begun. Feels like it started last year. This is one of those things like, you don't really know. Like sometimes it takes a while to realize like, okay, we're in this thing now that we can look back and see how public opinion has been forming around this. So I believe the average American believes that technology and now AI is now like a threat to their way of life. So I was looking at...
There were rumors of the Techlash in 2024 when the image generators came out. A lot of the arts community were saying this is really, really bad. It's going to put artists out of jobs. The thumbnail community on YouTube was upset. But this year, it's solidified around, there's like 3 or 4 key points, key talking points. If you talk to someone, why don't you like AI? Well, it's stealing copyrighted information, it's slop, it's putting people out of jobs, it's stealing water and stealing power, and each one of those
so
is
the first
somewhat
Techlash was
real,
like, okay, these our lives are now existing in these platforms. And they are in some ways more powerful than the government. And now, I had Maslow's hierarchy of needs pulled up, and I was just like going through and looking at physiological needs, right? Air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, safety, personal security, employment, resources, health, right? All these different things. And then you just go up and you can see that like there's good reason for the average American to just kind of believe like AI is going to mess all of this up, right? So starting at the bottom, Americans have heard that data centers use a lot of water, right?
It's
not necessarily factual.
Sure,
water is used in the process, but
yes.
We're not like, blowing through water at the rates that the public sort of perceives.
I was joking about this online. I was hypothetically debating with a AI doomer about water usage. Well, are they long water stalks? Because if you believe that AI is going to use all the power and you bought GE Verona, you did very, very well. But the water stocks have not mooned. So, hey, D-cells who think AI is going to use all the water, maybe you got to put on a long position.
Or just privatize a public utility. Become a monopolist.
Also, I mean, we're talking to Jeremy at SemiAnalysis, who's sort of their power expert. Obviously, AI does use a lot of power, and there's a lot of investment theses that can be built on top of the SemiAnalysis energy model. So why doesn't SemiAnalysis have a water model? Oh, because it's actually not a bottleneck to anything.
So the power thing is more real. People now just assume, like if they, I have to imagine people are reading an article, oh, your power bill might be going up. If your power bill just goes up because it's the winter, you're like, oh, thanks AI. Thanks,
totally.
You know, I didn't ask for this. So they've seen Terminator 2, so they can imagine kind of like the sci-fi scenario playing out. That's one factor. If they're super online, they might have heard like the Casey Hanmer or other people have talked about this, like solar panels, you know, an AI system just saying like, hey, actually this farmland, I could use it better than you humans.
Remember that Ilya video?
Oh, yeah.
So he did an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle. And it was this video. It was like a video documentary almost where they were interviewing him, but there was no questions. So you never saw who was asking the questions, but he was giving his answers. And he's sort of like sadly walking around on a gloomy beach. It's like very moody. And
I would say he was aura farming. He looked sick.
Yeah,
he did over
He did
bay.
aura farm San Francisco a little bit. But as I was getting dressed up as him for Halloween, we were playing that video. And the makeup artists who were applying the Ilya Sutskever, all the makeup to me, were watching that, being like, "That's not inspiring at all."
Okay, yeah, and I didn't even include that in here, but that's like the reaction. Like every time people hear leaders at labs talk, they're like, "Turn it off."
As opposed to you could show someone an Apple ad or a Steve Jobs clip, and it would be like, "Oh, dancing on your wired headphones with your iPod." Like, I love music. They're making music available. Great, I love it. And there were so many things that were just inspiring. So continue. Right.
Yeah, continuing. So, moving up the pyramid, people have been told that AI is coming for their jobs. Some people have like actually had an experience that made them feel like, whoa, I thought what I did was unique and special, but now I'm watching
AI do my job,
trying to do it on my own computer. Maybe, imagine somebody that's driving for Uber and Lyft, and all day long they're driving, and they're just seeing they're sitting next to Waymos in traffic, and you're looking over and there's no one in the seat. Like that's ominous. That's going to be scary if that's how somebody puts food on their table. And then every single CEO last year was saying like, we have, fortunately we have increased efficiency due to AI. And so we've laid off 10,000 people, right? And so a lot of that is just kind of like spin, marketing, et cetera, but that's what people are hearing, right?
Totally.
And then you look at what the AI leaders are actually saying. So Ilya, talking for 10 minutes, people are like, whoa, that doesn't seem good. Ilya's saying like...
He's saying like, let's not do that. He's trying to prevent that bad scenario. But it still reads like, whoa, I didn't realize they were taking that seriously.
Yeah, so you look at the quotes, you could easily look up quotes from Dario. Obviously, he had his quote, AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20% in the next 1 to 5 years. Elon had a good quote from over a decade ago. He said, with AI, we are summoning the demon.
Some people today might say the demon has been fully summoned.
Fully summoned. And Sam obviously said at one point, AI will probably most likely lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there'll be great companies. And so this kind of messaging, credit to them, it's like super effective for fundraising, right? If somebody's saying like all jobs will be wiped out, the world will be destroyed, but in the meantime...
There's a lot of funds that are long demon. You're just like
the demon thesis.
The free cash flow from demons.
So it's like if you're sitting there being like, if AI is going to eliminate my job, I want to own a piece of it. So maybe I can benefit from it. So the big issue is like anybody that's hearing all these, like why would they actually be excited about AI, right? Even though it is so incredible in so many ways, right? I gave the example earlier this week of like AI just being like a free sleep consultant for a toddler that just like one-shots it and it's free.
Even ChatGPT Health that launched this week. I mean, that's very good news for a lot of people that can't see a doctor that often, or just don't have the time, or don't have the money. There's a million reasons why that might be advantageous, and yet it's not that they're not pitching it like Steve Jobs pitched GarageBand, which was like, now anyone can be a musician. Now anyone can be their own doctor, is inspiring, but it's just like they are fighting an uphill battle because of those other quotes.
And I was thinking about it, it's like if you want to, if somebody is kind of like generally scared of AI, what content do you point them towards? Typically you'd want to point them towards the people building it, right? And say, or people around it. But even like Dwarkesh is like a little bit maybe like too high level, or not high level enough actually, right? It's like a little bit too ethereal, right? Talking about all these different potentials.
I mean,
but if you have them listen to like a Joe Rogan episode with one of these guys, it's going to be.
To be fair, not to debunk your piece, but I do think Demis is pretty good.
Demis is great. He
doesn't have one of those crazy quotes, and there's been 2 documentaries about him. Both of them are incredibly inspiring. And when I hear him talk about AI curing cancer or humans curing cancer with AI, it hits a lot different because he literally has a Nobel Prize and has solved
the problem if you look at if you just count up the views that Elon, Sam, and Dario have gotten in comparison to Demis, right?
He's much less of a household name, and he's also not the CEO of a big company because he's running the biggest lab in a big company, and so there's that. He just doesn't.
And so I've just been feeling like there's this gap, Steve Jobs sized hole, right? He had plenty of concerns about technology. He shared them freely. Somebody once asked him, so your kids must love the iPad? And then he said, my kids haven't used it. And he just said we limit how much technology we have in the home. He did talk about like losing the PC race to international business machines. He said, if for some reason we make some big mistake and IBM wins, my personal feeling is that we're going to enter a computer dark age for about 20 years. Like you can imagine like Sam saying something like that around like you don't want, and you've seen the internal sort of messages between him and Elon talking about like losing to Google. Right? It's like, oh, we don't want Google to control the AI god, right? He also had a 1994 Rolling Stones interview. Rolling Stone interview. The interviewer said, "Nevertheless, you've often talked about how technology can empower people, how it can change their lives. Do you still have as much faith in technology today as you did when you started out 20 years ago?" Steve says, "Oh, sure. It's not a faith in technology. It's faith in people. Technology is nothing. What's important is that you have faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. It's not the tools that you have faith in. Tools are just tools. They work or they don't work. It's people you have faith in or not. Yeah, sure, I'm still optimistic. I mean, I get pessimistic sometimes, but not for long." And part of this, it feels like people have are part of it's like fundraising, part of it's just how excited we are about AI, but like you're leaving humanity out. So there's this quote from Sam. He says, "If AI stays on the trajectory that we think it will, then amazing things will be possible. Maybe with 10 gigawatts of compute, AI can figure out how to cure cancer." So it's like, that's a fine quote. If there's some way to look at it and be like, okay, this is abundance, this is super exciting. I'm maybe more optimistic about AI, but he's saying that AI is going to figure out how to cure cancer, right? And like, if you've used these tools today, and talk to people that are at the labs, the reality is like it feels much more likely that humans will use AI to cure cancer, right? And so, like Steve would have said, if AI stays on the trajectory that we think it will, then amazing things will be possible. Maybe with 10 gigawatts of compute, humans can use AI to cure cancer. Small tweak,
human centrality.
But it's a big difference. And so. I wrote the facts are the facts. Steve Jobs was not one to shy away from impressive specs and massive scale, but flipping the final line from AI will cure cancer to humans will use AI to cure cancer makes all the difference. Apple put human centrality at the heart of everything they did, even when they were talking about something like a CNC to mill an aluminum block into a MacBook Pro. The focus was not on the CNC. It was on what it allowed the human being to do, right?
CNC is literally a robot. It's computer numerical control. But when you watch that unibody presentation, it puts Johnny Ive at the center. And it's like, I used the tool to create something beautiful out of this amazing material that I could never do with just my normal tools. Like I could never chisel out an aluminum unibody. I need a CNC for that. I have it, and I can create something beautiful.
So at the end of this, I just said, like, I think AI has a massive narrative problem right now. The narrative is working within the industry. It's not working for people that are outside the industry. And I really don't think it has to be this way, right? Like, I think that there is a human central, there is an empowering way to pitch this technology in this future. And we're not doing it right now. And I expect that everybody will, Elon has his own style of pitching all things, and I don't think he's going to change. I think that other folks, maybe like Dario and Sam, can, make small tweaks that will go a long way. And obviously there's founders that we don't even know their names yet that are going to be huge players in all of this as well.
Definitely. Before we move on, let me tell you about 11 Labs. Build intelligent, real-time conversational agents. Reimagine human technology interaction with 11 Labs. So there's some massive news from Meta. They are doing a big deal with Oklo to build nuclear power plants. We've been following the energy story very closely this week. Obviously, we're talking to Jeremy in just a little bit. We have some exciting guests next week digging into how we are going to generate more power in this country. The headline from the Wall Street Journal is Meta unveils sweeping nuclear power plan to fuel its AI ambitions. And we'll read through a little bit of this. Meta Platforms on Friday unveiled a series of agreements that would make it an anchor customer for new and existing nuclear power in the United States, where it needs city-sized amounts of electricity for its artificial intelligence data centers. The Facebook parent said it would back new reactor projects with the developers TerraPower and Oklo, and has struck a deal with the power producer Vistra, which is up 11% today, to purchase and expand the generation output of 3 existing nuclear power plants in Ohio and Pennsylvania. So they already exist. There's probably some work already done on the permitting side. They're probably deeper in, but Facebook's just stepping up and saying, hey, we're opening the pocketbooks. We got the debt. We got the cash flow. We got the money to power this and take it across the finish line. So Vistra and Oklo, both their shares rose about 15% after the stock market opened. TerraPower is still privately held, so no movement there, but you imagine the secondary market is booming right now. Meta aims to see the first new reactors delivered as early as 2030 and 2032, which feels like it won't matter because superintelligence will be here by then. Certainly, AI 2027. We're now less than 12 months away from the superintelligence, if you believe the most aggressive possible scenario.
I mean, to give AI 2027 credit,
they didn't.
To date, it's been fairly on point.
It has, and no one will correct you more quickly than Tyler Cosgrove over there, the ultimate AGI pillar. I do think we were trying to do the number of days till AGI on the ticker, and I think we got to go analog. I've been enjoying moving the goalposts, and I think we need a massive flip board.
It's like the doomsday clock.
Yeah. Well, you know how. Do you remember back in the old days when there was a movie theater and they would put up the letters on each of the, like, if it was like Avengers, they would take an A and they would take a little like suction cup on the end of a pole, and they would put it up on the marquee, one letter at a time. I feel like we need something much more analog to change the number of days till the singularity, as we monitor it here on TBPN. Its purchase of nuclear power.
Goalposts.
Yes. We're very eyes wide open that the schedule is challenging, but we think it's important to be bold, said the director of global energy at Meta. What a gig.
That's a great
hitting.
I'm the director of global energy.
Around the globe.
I'm the energy director. I'm the chief energy
officer. You want to power this globe? You're going through me. Soon, I mean, you got to be angling for a promotion there.
Because I just view Meta as like a nation state.
Yeah, well, so the problem is the globe. It's impressive. Meta operates all over the globe, but why aren't you thinking bigger? Who's the director of solar system level energy development? Galactic energy production.
True.
Universal energy production. You should be producing energy all over the universe, Meta. You're thinking too small with merely focusing on the globe. Hitting those timelines for new reactors would require the companies to quickly select sites that would be acceptable to nuclear regulators, start working with utilities to secure grid connections, and get their manufacturing operations up and running, she said. But it would also mean they have a chance to meet the urgent demand for more electricity to fuel AI computing. And so if you think about 2032, this stuff comes online, that's great, but it feels like 2027, 2028, we're going to see a mismatch in demand relative to production. So we'll talk to Jeremy from SemiAnalysis about how we can solve that in the interim. Let me tell you about Figma before we move on. Figma Make isn't your average vibe coding tool. It lives in Figma, so outputs look good, feel real, and stay connected to how teams build, create code-backed prototypes and apps fast. Continuing. Oklo and Meta making this announcement. 1.2 gigawatts is the total size of this nuclear campus in Pike County, Ohio. The agreement includes binding prepayment to support fuel procurement enabling Oklo to advance early project work and secure fuel, adding new, clean, reliable power to the grid. So,
Oklo opened super high this morning, and then is at 115, and then has been trading down. So it's up 7% today, but up 28.7% in the last 5 days. So it's almost like somebody knew this was coming. But this was a fun article in the Journal. Were you happy to hear that AI is mining our trash for treasure?
Trash economy. Trash economy. We're going to be using cubes of trash.
We're all going to be getting trash post AGI.
Yes. We're going to be using cubes of trash to everyone will be rich because everyone will have a cube of trash in the trash economy. The headline from the Journal is AI is mining our trash for treasure.
Plus, hospitals embrace AI for better and worse, and scientists create a robot smaller than a grain of sand.
So, Waste Management, the largest U.S. trash hauler and recycler, is spending on building and automating recycling facilities. You have to go back and imagine a Sopranos-like scenario where the mob is running trash management and just vibe coding and being like, what model should we use to detect what's in the trash? What's actually happening here is that they have to sort out the recyclables because there are valuable things that get thrown away in the trash, and the more that you can route things to different places, the better. So it's a difficult job that pays workers little, and it's hard for companies to fill. Who really wants the job of trash sorter?
That was like my first job, picking up cigarette butts.
Yes, but you didn't have to sort them.
Well,
you should. It's ridiculous.
Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have found the ones.
How do you never figure out that they just have that? You know that bucket that you put down and then you sweep into it? How did you not develop tools?
It was like a dirt
vacuum.
It was
did
like
you consider a vacuum.
It was like fine rock that was the ground, and so if I was doing that, I'd just be
picking up rocks,
and then I'd have to be.
What about one of those grabber tools? I still feel like at a certain point you weren't even operating at like monkey or dolphin level.
I was more like I was running. I know I actually was running around like a monkey. Like I liked the speed at which I could just be running around.
But the monkey and the dolphin, they developed tools, and you were unable to develop tools, and you suffered.
I was promoted fairly quickly.
Okay. You developed tools eventually. Thanks to recent advancements, some recyclers are now employing machines to do this dirty work. This week, Ryan December reports on the recycling companies using AI to find valuable commodities in the trash. So here's a job that computers can take without much complaint, sorting recyclables. And before we read this, let me tell you about Lambda. Lambda is the super intelligence cloud, building AI supercomputers for training and inference that scale
By the way,
from 1 GPU to hundreds
do you have
of
do you have the honor of being serviced by Waste Management?
I don't know, actually. I think my town might have its own, but
every time I interact with Waste Management,
it's good.
It's great.
Really?
Like it makes me wish that all utilities were privatized.
How does that manifest?
I mean, it's just the website is great. The support is great. Everything about the experience is great.
When are you going to a website to interact with your trash?
Just like moving.
I need new.
If you move, like, there's all these things like interacting with California utilities.
Sure.
Is
my trash bin broke at one point, and I needed a replacement.
One click. I bet Waste Management will have an agent that
Claude Code. Get me a new. Trash can, I suppose. For humans, it is a foul, laborious job that entails standing over a conveyor belt, plucking beer cans and detergent bottles from a stream of refuse. The job pays little and is hard to fill. At Murphy Road Recycling's material recovery facility near Hartford, the machines are taking over the dirtiest jobs. A few workers remain on the line, mostly near the front, to watch for hazardous items. Otherwise, the system of conveyors, magnets, optical sorters, and pneumatic blocks run largely unmanned. Watching over it all are computers that analyze material as it passes by about 7 miles an hour. The devices made by London-based Grey Parrot, that's a good name for a company, use artificial intelligence. The African Grey Parrot, I think, is the smartest parrot, or maybe it lives the longest. Use artificial intelligence to identify recyclables, flag food-grade material, gauge items' mass, assess market value. They're doing DCF on every
African
item.
Gray parrots can live to 70 or 80.
Let's go.
Imagine just having the world's most wise parrot just with you always.
I like it.
Tyler, you should get into birds.
Yeah, bird guy.
I don't know if we're. I don't know if our office lease allows.
What's my
for
budget?
What's your budget? How much? I think an African Gray Parrot is expensive. I remember I was moving into an apartment building, and I don't know why, but my friends were telling the landlord that one of the friends that was moving in had a collection of African gray parrots, and they just thought it was the funniest thing to try and get this landlord to approve the African gray parrots in the apartment. It was very, very silly.
There's a store in LA called The Perfect Parrot. Maybe you should go over there, Tyler.
Maybe. Gold Rock says Mike Rowe is punching the air right now. Dirty jobs, getting displaced. So environmental concerns and the White House's push to boost domestic production of raw materials have turned attention to America's waste stream, which is full of valuable commodities. The aluminum tariff, 50%, has lifted demand for scrap metal. Meanwhile, pulp mill closures have left box makers reliant more than ever on old corrugated containers. And consumer good companies want to reclaim their bottles and jugs as states adopt extended producer responsibility laws aimed at reducing plastic pollution. That's good news. There's really a lot of value in a lot of recyclables and garbage, says the founder and chief technology officer at AMP, a Colorado company that builds AI-run recycling facilities. The problem has been that the cost of pulling those materials out is similar to or greater than the actual value of those materials. Recyclers believe that AI will allow them to efficiently mine our trash for treasure. Gray Parrot's analyzers were shown recyclables thousands of times in conditions ranging from crumpled to perfectly intact until the computers could recognize materials. Perfect job for AI. The devices gather data about what is passing through the facility and which items aren't winding up where they belong. It's helping us make adjustments to the system. Murphy Road executives say the technology allows them to sort up to 60 tons an hour of curbside recycling. And some of the stuff that you can pull out of recycling is remarkable, especially if there's batteries that can be disassembled. There's a whole company, Redwood Materials, founded by J.B. Straubel, former co-founder of Tesla, early employee of Tesla, board member of Tesla, focused on recycling EV batteries because obviously we have the rare earth elements, we make the magnets, we make the batteries, and then we just kind of trash them. And if you can recycle them, that's obviously effective and valuable. Sort of an interesting second
What do you
act.
think about the name Redwood Materials? Wouldn't you
I think it's
expect them
nice.
to be working
In wood?
Wood?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they call that. I think they're out in Vegas. They have a massive facility. I wonder how the business is doing. I know they raised a bunch of money. It was a massive CapEx-intensive effort, but it seemed like something that was uniquely powered by, seeing the rollout of Tesla. J.B. Straubel is working on Tesla, seeing how many cars they're shipping, watching all the batteries go out the door, and just thinking, okay, well, something's going to happen with those in a couple of years. I should start building this business today.
Yeah.
Well, CrowdStrike. Your business is AI. Their business is securing it. CrowdStrike secures AI and stops breaches. So let's move on to the big news of the day. Andreessen Horowitz raised $15 billion. Why are we here? Why did we raise $15 billion? Ben Horowitz wrote a piece on X. You can go and read it. He's also joined
By the way,
the show.
Redwood Materials, the last round they raised was in October of 2025. I missed that.
October of 2025. Oh,
Yeah, so very recently
get you
raised
to be on the show.
$350 million.
Yes. Massive suite of new funds. The haul represents 18% of all venture capital dollars allocated in the United States in 2025.
Yeah, so that was something I was curious about. Does this get sort of like backdated, like this wasn't factoring into the data that we had from last year, and now that it's, or was it already being counted in some way through filings, right? Because you add an incremental, 15 billion of
that's
funding.
a big change.
Really
I don't know.
move the
We'll have to ask them. But a16z is now at 90 billion of AUM, and it's split over a number of funds. The Growth Fund got 6.75 billion. American Dynamism 2 got 1.776, I believe, right? Or is it 1.176 billion? There's two different numbers here. Apps 2 got 1.7 billion. Infrastructure, the second fund, got 1.7 billion. Bio and healthcare got 700 million, and other strategies got 3 billion. I wonder, crypto is sort of missing here. I wonder if crypto is just on a different cycle or has some sort of different structure. We'll have to ask them about that. But very exciting, and feels like despite the headline of venture capital fundraising declining, certainly plenty of money to go around.
Well, I think both Josh and Delian this week talked about kind of the K-shape, and how less emerging managers, less new funds, but the platforms have been doing just fine.
Yeah, I'm curious about this. Oh, okay. So I understand it. So American Dynamism Fund 2 raised $1.176 billion. They already had a $600 million fund. So you add those together and you get the final amount of funding for American Dynamism across the two funds, $1.776 billion for American Dynamism. And some cool trading cards going up from Andreessen. David Ulevich shares one of an Anduril Fury drone flying across a mountain range for companies that support the national interest. Catherine Boyle had a different graphic with a horse, which we love. Play that horse sound with an American flag and the Andreessen new font, which is a very beveled and 3D looking metal texture. Very fun. And
Packy has a new piece on some of the history of the fund.
Yeah.
The opening is quite fun. I'll just read it.
Before we do, let me tell you about Cognition. They're the makers of Devon, the AI software engineering. Crush your backlog with your personal AI engineering team.
Packy says, Andreessen Horowitz hears your feedback that it's too loud, that it would shut up and dribble, that it should shut up and dribble politically speaking, that you don't agree with a recent investment or two, that it's unbecoming to quote the Pope, that there is no way it will ever generate a reasonable return for LPs on such enormous funds. A16Z does hear you. It has been hearing you at this point for nearly 2 decades.
Overnight success.
And then he goes in to a bunch of the history and the news. So I would encourage everybody to go
And
read specifically. There's a bunch of information on their actual returns, which is cool. But unfortunately, this went out right before we joined, so I have not been able to read it yet.
But there was some spice. We got to get to the drama. So Andreessen Horowitz, they put out this image. Why we raised $15 billion. We're all in on America. And what image do they use? They use Mount Everest. They're climbing Mount Everest. The metaphor is clear. It's the tallest mountain. We're the tallest mountain in venture. We got the most money. We're the biggest firm. But a lot of people are saying, hey, why'd you use a Chinese mountain? Why'd you use a Chinese mountain? It's Everest. It's over there in China. It's actually half in China, half in Nepal. It's more complicated. But maybe it's foreshadowing.
Let's not get into that.
Maybe it's foreshadowing. You know, we're acquiring Greenland. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe it's not going to be in China forever. Maybe we already named it. Everest is named it by an American who I believe was the first person to climb it. And
remember,
land acquisitions.
White House officials have talked about a $5.7 billion payment for Greenland.
Yeah.
Right. That depending on what type of payment would be needed for a place like Nepal, right? You can imagine it being potentially less than that. So, A16Z, they've got plenty of cash. But I'm super excited to have a whole host of folks from the fund. Jen is joining, Alex Rampell. David, and then Ben will cap it off at the end for his.
And Dan Primek is pulling out the spiciest quote, VC industry shots fired by Ben Horowitz. Ben says, as the American leader in venture capital, the fate of new technology in the United States rests partly on our shoulders. That seems reasonable. They're certainly up there. And leaders, obviously, by what definition? But they're certainly in the top in terms of AUM, they do have a responsibility for.
And what did Josh Wolf yesterday was saying that he expects at least 1 or 2 of these larger platform funds to go public. So we'll have to get into that.
Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting angle with Andreessen, is because it's becoming such a large. They call it platform fund. They're almost private equity type deals. We've seen General Catalyst buy a hospital network. Like they're at a scale where they can keep a company private until they're a $1 trillion company, but they can also buy whole companies and roll things up and incubate stuff. There's so much that you can do at this level, and it starts to look like, is the comp actually BlackRock? Is the comp actually Blackstone? And those two firms are worth 170 billion each, something around there, 190 billion each. And so it's going to be, it feels like it's going to be interesting to start seeing these firms more as financial institutions with more traditional
not just
structures.
a firm and institution.
Yeah, not that it's going to happen anytime soon, but it feels like.
But this feels like it could be effectively a pre-IPO round.
Oh yeah,
pre-IPO fundraise.
Yeah, maybe.
We will see. We will see. But go read Packy's piece.
Yeah.
And Shyam Sankar says we should insist that all data centers that are built are architecturally beautiful in the neoclassic style.
Yes, I wanted to do an architecture deep dive. Before we do, let me tell you about Labelbox, delivering you the highest quality data for frontier AI. Get in the box, the Labelbox.
Get in the box.
I love that they gave us enough, just enough rope to hang ourselves. So Shyam Sankar, he wants data centers built that are architecturally beautiful in the neoclassical style. Have you seen those photos of the AWS data centers that back up onto Virginia housing developments? So it's just like an idyllic few houses that just look like a normal neighborhood, and then just behind you, massive white box.
They're like, I'm not leaving.
Well, now you don't even get a box, you get a tent, because Meta is now, they gave up on their previous architectural design, and now it's just a tent, which maybe is more aesthetic. If you're going to do a tent, Meta, I think you should make it like a circus tent. Get some red and white stripes going. get some constant, clown music going.
Get the workers in the data center to be wearing clown
makeup. Yeah.
IRL slop.
Yeah, exactly. But there were some interesting architectural debates that I wanted to go through. Before we go to the next one, let me tell you about MongoDB. Choose a database built for flexibility and scale. With best-in-class embedding models and re-rankers, MongoDB has what you need to build what's next. So imagine being as locked in as the Kyoto architecture community was in 1397. I cannot believe this was built 700 years ago, 1600 or 600 years ago. Explain what.
So there's some lore here.
Give me the lore, Tyler.
Okay, so yeah, 1397 when it was built. I think in maybe 1950. So it was like a temple, right? So there's monks that lived there.
Okay.
And I think it was 1950.
For 500 years or 600 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one was living there, and he burned down the temple.
Whoa.
And then he tried to commit suicide right outside it.
Why? What's wrong?
I don't know.
He just wasn't locked in?
No one knows what happened. But
okay.
But then, so this is actually, it was rebuilt. And there's a good...
but it was rebuilt in the same style?
Yeah.
So the architectural style is truly from 1397?
Yes.
That's
I think there's some questions about how much gold was actually used in the original
design.
design.
Yeah.
But
I
there's
feel like gold should be
about
pretty fire resistant, Gold, probably high melt.
Sure, but I mean, it's like a very thin covering. It's not...
Well, that's a skill issue. They should have made it out of solid gold. Then a single ember, you're trying to light it, trying to get it started, and the monk is just, I can't get this gold building to melt.
Yeah, but there's a good Yukio Mishima book about this.
Oh, really? There's a whole book just about this story?
It's like a fictionalized story of the burning.
Interesting. Very cool. How would you rate this out of 10, Jordy? Would you live in this Kyoto temple?
If it was an Amman, yes.
If it was an Amman, it must have a spa.
I'm kidding. I do. I like the water feature.
The water feature.
I really want to bring back
moats.
Moats, right?
Are
the obvious thing that's missing from modern architecture. People talk about the material use, the form factor, but the elephant in the room is a lack of moats in modern architecture. We need to bring back moats, gators in the moats, potentially sharks in the moats.
I feel like sharks are a little bit safer in the moat because you can hang out at the water line. Whereas if there's gators in your moat and you're on the grass next to your moat.
Yeah, people have like koi fish,
Koi fish are
ponds,
cool.
but why not just go size it up a little bit? Go for the shark pond.
Shark pond.
Shark pond. Imagine, people go out. They like the being relaxed and kind of like feeding the koi. But imagine just throwing like chicken breasts into the water for a shark. How relaxing that would be.
Yeah.
If you needed just 15-minute break from work before you get back to your email job.
Well, if you're building a fintech company, you need a moat. You need Plaid. Plaid powers the apps you use to spend, save, borrow, and invest, securely connecting bank accounts to move money, fight fraud, and improve lending now with AI. What about the architecture at the Charles de Gaulle Airport in France? It's a cross-section of a wing complete with spar box. I didn't know what that means. Billy Thalamer, founder of Regent Aircraft, been on the show. He says we need more buildings modeled after airplane parts. I've seen this as well in a house. Someone took an airplane wing, a physical, real airplane wing, and built it into a house. It sort of served as the unifying ceiling. What do you think about living in an airplane wing? Would you do that? If it was an Amman, obviously. But
I feel like I saw a house at some point that was built around 747.
Yes. Well, you also might be thinking of John Travolta's house, which just often had a 747 parked outside, which he flew himself, which is incredible. Imagine being so into private aviation that you learn to fly massive jets
I found it.
and then land them at your house with your own.
I put it in the timeline, guys, if you can pull it up. There's something called the 747 Wing House in California. So
yes.
Let's pull up this
I think
video.
I've seen this on a show called Grand Design on Netflix. I believe I watched a little mini documentary or an episode of reality TV about this. Let's see this. Yeah, this is the exact thing I've watched, I
You don't
believe.
come across views like
Very
that.
cool.
More than once in a lifetime. It is somewhere that once seen, it would never be
Reveal it.
forgotten.
Reveal it. Enough of there's a cactus outside.
Running water or even roads is an endurance test only the
Where's
brave
the wing?
disused Boeing.
There it is.
There we go.
Look at this thing.
Oh, 2 wings. Interesting. Oh, very cool. That looks really cool.
We don't know how to make
That's
wing
really
houses
cool.
in
Well,
this
you
country
know
anymore.
what this is. Every time you watch one of these episodes, it's always just some couple that's just maniacally focused on making this particular thing, and they interview them, and it takes like years to create one of these episodes. Wow, interesting. It's blurred. I wonder why that is. Very, very odd. But it's always someone has a vision, and then they think it's going to be easy, and then they spend a decade building it, and they have to check in with them. We checked in with them 4 years later, and they were still in production and still getting permits. But eventually it does get built, and it looks beautiful when it does. And
You got to really love the 747 to be in love with this house. I think it looks very cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did it.
I flew on a 747 for maybe the first time to Europe. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
The first time?
Yeah, 747s are pretty rare. Like, except for long-haul international flights.
You're an America guy.
I'm an American guy, so I'm usually
American
737 MAX,
Yeah.
always, like or Airbus. But the 747, it has a special aesthetic to it because of the smooth bump. You get the second story, but only for the first half of the plane. It's the plane that we use Air Force One for, that we use for Air Force One. Whereas the competitor, which I believe is the Airbus A380, doesn't have the same aesthetic beauty. It's 2 stories the entire way. It's very efficient, but it just doesn't have the same clean line as the 747, which is just so iconic. Anyway, Charles de Gaulle Airport, go check it out. Also check out Restream, 1 live stream, 30 plus destinations. If you want a multi-stream, go to restream.com.
Checking
what about
in on 262 Fifth Ave.
Yes.
Sage Hunter Bornstein says
should be
Fifth
raised.
Ave, it's a crime. It should be raised. Shame on SLCE.
He really dug into who built this
Wow,
thing.
Moscow-based.
Yeah.
He's going at him.
26 residences. He calls it hideous architecture. He says it takes away Madison Square Park's views of the Empire State Building. I don't know. What is that at the top? That top is
Don't worry about the gold cube, John. Don't worry about it.
Don't
worry
about it.
Don't worry about it.
These
It's
stupid
just
calls.
it's a gold cube.
Wow, we found a rare post here. 0 likes, 166 views.
Wow, first
one to like. Except for the fact that I disagree with it. I think it's actually sort of a nice building, and I think we generally need more buildings.
I think it just feels harsh because of the contrast to the building next to it.
True, but I don't know. We'll read this in the mansion section, but there's some interesting dynamics about how HOAs enforce aesthetics in communities and whether or not that's good or not. In other news, they 3D printed a Starbucks. Starbucks has a new drive-through in Texas, the coffee giant's first 3D printed store in the United States.
It's funny, they've really made it look like it's 3D printed.
Look at this. So, I mean, I've talked to one of there's a YC company that does this technique. I know, it looks so sloppy. and there's a little bit of like, up at the top, it actually looks like there's a little bit of imperfection and randomness that looks sort of aesthetic. It looks like it's sort of designed in the way that a log cabin, not every log is going to be perfect. But then you get to the middle section, and it's like the tube that was pumping it was just not working. If you scroll over to the left and then down a little bit, just down, like that is messy. So the way it shows up, you basically get like a crane with a gantry that can move the nozzle in an X and Y axis, and it just pours cement in loops, circles again and again and again.
Okay, I need to know how quickly they built this and how much it costs, because if this came in at 80%.
They said it was two G's, $2,000. No. Can you imagine? It's so cheap.
Starbucks was down to their last $2,000.
And they're just like, just 3D print it. Yeah. I don't know.
Around 1.2 million.
Okay, that's.
What is the average Starbucks
cost?
Standalone building cost?
Tyler asks, who is the architect? And Pete says, Slop GPT. People are not happy. The U.S.
Chase says you wouldn't download a Starbucks.
U.S. graphics company says, I have the sudden urge to insult this in biblical terms. Yeah, people are not very happy with this. It does feel like a low quality print. Hopefully, the 3D printing company, this is just a step in the road, and they become more aesthetic, more precise, I think.
Okay, so the total investment range for a Starbucks location is $760,000 to $2.2 million. So
that's not.
It's kind of like right in the range there.
It's the median cost, but one of the more ugly ones.
Whether you're long or you're short Starbucks, you got to do it on public.com. Investing for those who take it seriously. Stocks, options, bonds, crypto, treasuries, and more with damn great customer service.
Matt Stevick says they saved $10.
Good to see you, Matt. The Wrath of Non is comparing some architecture in Oslo, Norway.
Wait, going back to the 3D for a second.
Let's go back to the
could they not have found a material to just place on that? Like, it seems like this could be a great way to build the core structure.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just
plaster over it?
Plaster
over it.
Like,
and just
it seems like they wanted to
really
prove that it was really put it in your face. But
Yeah.
the whole point of technology is not the technology itself.
Yeah.
It's what it enables.
Yeah.
So if you can build a Starbucks for half the cost, twice as fast, that's amazing. But it doesn't mean it has to look like it was 3D printed.
You can plaster and spackle over any sort of rough material, and then you can print. You can basically stamp like brick texture into it or some cinder block texture into it, and it's fake, but it looks like what it looks like. They didn't do any of that here. They really let the loose tubes really lay out. It looks just squishy.
It looks like
a gingerbread
toothpaste.
house.
It looks like a kid's school project.
Yes. Today we're using
and you got to be like, nice work. Nice work.
What are those, like tongue depressors and chopsticks or
popsicle sticks?
Popsicle sticks and glue, and the 4-year-old went a little crazy with the glue. The Elmers came out in full effect with this Starbucks.
That being said,
results.
Cool that this is actually happening.
Yeah,
because this has been promised.
Yes.
For a while.
Yes.
I just hope they refine the design.
At the same time, I've talked to a number of startup founders who operate in the.
Trey says you can also build a Starbucks out of mud, but probably
you probably shouldn't. Oh wow. Okay, so I've talked to a number of startup founders working in trying to develop cheaper housing, cheaper building materials, and they've all said the last thing that you want to 3D print is just a flat wall. Like 3D printing is great when you're talking about Lucas Zinger's hypercar and you need some crazy structure that can't just be milled. But like we're very, very efficient at making flat planes. You can just take a metal cube and slice it. You can take a bunch of wood and build a grid. Like we're pretty efficient at just building flat walls. You don't actually need 3D printing for that. You need 3D printing for building some sort of special structure. There was a rocket company, was it Relativity? I don't want to get it wrong, but there was a rocket company that was saying, hey, we're going to 3D print rockets, and it would go and solder one piece after another in a cylindrical tube. The only problem is that we know how to make cylinders really, really effectively.
Bend metal.
Yeah, we can just bend metal, and so that's what Blue Origin and SpaceX do.
Aqua Rocket says Lincoln Logs, Starbucks.
Lincoln Logs, Starbucks.
Soft serve building.
It does look like soft serve. That's right.
It's a good Starbucks.
Yeah, maybe it's an ad for the McFlurry. Maybe the McFlurry machine always works there.
DG says you could do a sandcastle Starbucks.
Sandcastle Starbucks might be fun.
That could go pretty hard.
Well, maybe they need to do a Sandcastle National Museum over in Oslo, Norway. But before we dig into this, let me tell you about AppLovin, profitable advertising made easy with Axon.ai. Get access to over 1 billion daily active users and grow your business today. So he's comparing two images. One is from 1882, it's the National Gallery, and in 2022, they launched the National Museum, and he claims that modern architecture is meant to demoralize you. And you can zoom in on the side-by-side here. The 1880s building is very ornate with lots of gold and brick and details and structure and windows and all sorts of things. And the 2022 building looks like a black cube from the Borg or Star Trek.
Really rough.
Some cool stuff. You can do cool things with flat materials. I've always liked the design of the Walt Disney Concert Hall, but it looks like this sweeping winged structure. It's very innovative and unique. This is a little boring, guys. But at the same time, Oslo, it's a gloomy place. It sort of fits in, I guess. I don't know. Maybe
Rough.
The architects were depressed. They had seasonal affective disorder. Sad. Anyway.
Steve is sharing, apparently this was a proposal from a Norwegian architecture firm for the Obama Presidential Library in Hawaii, but it failed.
Okay, so the Norwegians got it.
They still got it.
Yeah, sometimes it's the flat black cube. It's interesting because like the critique of the new Obama Presidential Library is that it's too Norwegian. And it turns out he just went with the wrong Norwegians, I suppose, because they're sharing these sort of science fiction looking renders. These look beautiful with a wonderful water feature and this sweeping grass overlay that seems very cool, although it feels like you would be at risk of falling off the edge here. They would have to put a railing of some sort. But very, very cool architectural designs, and I would love to see more.
Pull up the Obama Presidential Library.
Does Trump get 2 presidential libraries, one for each term? Has he already built one? I know the plane's going there, right? Something like that. Very odd.
I put the Obama one in the.
But if you're worried about a lack of gold in the presidential library architectural industry, I don't think you need to be worried for very long. I think there will be a very ornate building coming in just a few years, probably. And I'm sure the.
Yes, this is what. This was the winning bid.
Yeah. And they did that.
This one is in
Chicago,
though.
Right?
This one is in Chicago.
This one's in Chicago, okay.
Not Hawaii.
Yes.
And again, maybe if they get a huge projector and put like a fireplace on the wall inside, it could be cozy.
I like that.
But that doesn't look.
It's crazy how tall.
It looks like a great place. Potentially like the if the deep state felt like not super welcome. In other buildings,
I want to see the aircraft that they're building inside there because that looks like an aircraft hangar for a UFO.
Yeah.
It seems of alien origin.
Yeah.
Well, Wrath of Non is continuing to talk about architecture. He says, traditional Korean architecture with its visually rich, harmonious patterns produces lower levels of visual stress than modern facades with repetitive patterns, hard lines, and high contrast materials, which are more likely to overload the visual system and contribute to discomfort, especially in dense urban areas. There's some research that suggests that having variation in your architecture actually can reduce stress, which is fascinating.
Yeah, try to zoom in on this picture on the left. If you click in, because you can see the one on the left, it's way, for something, it just feels more organic or more natural, right?
Yeah, and it's a pretty simple shift.
And then if you go over to the right a little bit,
it doesn't feel like they
okay, that looks like a prison. On the one side, the left looks like, they're gentrifying some area, and on the right, some part of like Mexico City, and on the right, it looks like a prison, and it's only a slight
or a bank building in New York City. But it doesn't seem like it costs that much to create some variation and randomness in your architectural designs. Maybe it's expensive, but
I want to see the new A16. I think A16Z needs to build a massive gold superstructure in the heart of San Francisco. Carve out. Who knows what the fee structure is, but
take half of it.
Take half of the fees and just build a monolithic monument to.
Have you ever been to the Statue of Liberty?
I've never actually toured
inside. So there's a structure. You can go inside of it and walk up the stairs and whatnot. You could put offices in that. You could build a statue and then put your office inside the statue. That's thinking.
I like that.
What do you
I think we should kind of look back to Charlie Munger's design for the UCSB.
Yeah, pull that up.
Dorms. Yeah.
Dormzilla.
He just wanted
Dormzilla.
He just wanted everyone to lock in.
He wanted everyone to lock in, and he was killed for it. It was ridiculous. He was.
Pull this up. University of California abandons plans to build windowless dorm, the Munger Hall. He just wanted you to lock in, but pull up this article. You can see the design and just how many rooms in this place are windowless. It is very, very powerful. So on the outside, it looks I think he just knew that people were only going to have a few. By the time this was built, people would only have a few years to escape the permanent underclass, and windows would distract people. If you scroll down, you can see the actual design.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
windowless things. Maybe he was just super pilled on VR at the time. He was like, everyone's going to be in the metaverse. Everyone's going to be locked into their VR headsets. Maybe
Aqua says Munger was cooking. Yeah, we should have let him cook.
Yeah, we support him. Anyway, Gusto, the unified platform for payroll, benefits, and HR, built to evolve its modern small and medium-sized businesses.
I mean, the funny thing with trying to do that at UCSB is like the most popular freshman dorms at UCSB are actually like in an old like hotel.
Yes.
So it's these two towers that like have these like incredible like 360 views, not 360, but like the mountains and the ocean, and then you have like this huge like Olympic swimming pool. So it actually feels like you're just staying at like a Hilton or something like that. And so to go from that to windowless is just a little bit rough.
Yeah. Well, underrated strategy, buy a compound with your friend. Do you see this? Former casino mogul Steve Wynn and financier Thomas Peterfy set a record when they bought a 4.5 acre compound in 2024. I can't seem to add this to the list, but it's in the Wall Street Journal today. It's on the cover of the mansion section. It's comparing Aspen to Palm Beach, but it's very funny. It says 5 years ago, $20 million home sales in Aspen were rare, happening no more than a handful times in a year. An influx of uber-wealthy buyers has now upended that norm, handing the affluent ski area 34 deals above $20 million last year, up 161% from 2024. Year-over-year growth almost tripling in that category. The median single-family home sale price hit $13.95 million during 2025's third quarter, compared to $9.97 million in Palm Beach, Florida, raising the question, has Aspen eclipsed Palm Beach as one of the priciest markets in the country? Long known as playgrounds for the rich and famous, one sunny, one snowy, Aspen and Palm Beach are increasingly two sides of the same coin when it comes to luxury real estate. Despite 2,000 miles between them, each is home to dozens of billionaires. Restaurants like Saint Ambroise and boutiques like Brunello Cucinelli have outposts in both locales. Some of the wealthiest people have property in both places too. People run in packs, and they run to the same destinations, said Palm Beach real estate agent Dana Koch. The meteoric rise of Aspen's ultra-luxury market has made comparisons between the markets unavoidable. Both Palm Beach and Aspen saw deal volume and prices soar in 2020. That's continued to be driven by strong financial markets. The one percenters are making money hand over fist, said Aspen real estate appraiser Randy Gold. Real estate, he said, is a hard asset that they can enjoy. Both are small markets that are protected geographically, adding to their exclusivity. Palm Beach is an island. I got to turn to M9.
Aspen is basically an island in the mountains surrounded by public land.
Yeah.
Once you're here, it's very private. Each has a limited supply of homes. There are only so many beachfront properties in Palm Beach or homes on Aspen's Red Mountain, which has fueled major price appreciation in both. The numbers are mind-boggling, but the reality is these properties are unicorns. When they come up for sale, you have buyers out there who will pay a premium.
Okay, so Steve Wynn and Thomas Peterfy, they both own homes in the same area in Palm Beach, and they're known to be friends, and they're both GOP donors. They're neighbors in Florida, and apparently they became close enough to go in on a $108 million Aspen estate together. And so Wynn is the founder of the Wynn Resort and Casino and the Bellagio. Thomas Peterfy is the founder, chairman, and largest shareholder of Interactive Brokers. So he's made a ton of money. Thomas is worth $35 billion. Steve Wynn is maybe worth $3.4 billion. So one order of magnitude gap between them. And you wonder if it's Wynn being like, I got to bring in some extra firepower on here. Let's go 50-50, brother.
Well, here's the thing. This sounds great in theory, and then it's New Year's, and both families want to be in Aspen.
But it is a 22,000 square foot compound. You might just say, hey, we're doing Christmas together, New Year's together.
I know, but
there's probably only one master.
Actually finding families that want to go be in a cabin.
Yeah. It's a tall order. It's crazy to be like, oh yeah, like bro, you're only worth $3.4 billion. Hit the couch. I got the master. You got the couch. Yeah. Oh, you only put in $50 million into this compound. But this is where it gets funny. So. There's no reporting on like why they decided to buy this together, but we have a clue because the buyer is actually an LLC that they set up, and the name of that LLC is Buddies Aspen. They're just like, we're buddies. We're Aspen buddies. We're a couple of Aspen buddies, and we went in on it together. And so they bought an Aspen mansion together. It's a very funny time. The other buddies who did not buy a mansion together are, of course, the Google co-founders who have both bought property in Miami. Larry Page just spent $173 million on 2 Miami homes. Some of them are very odd. We'll go into these. First, let me tell you about Fin.ai, the #1 AI agent for customer service. If you want AI to handle your customer support, go to Fin.ai. So Google co-founder Larry Page has bought 2 massive Miami estates for a combined $173 million, according to people familiar with the situation. The deals come as Page and other Silicon Valley moguls descend on Miami in the face of California's proposed tax on billionaires. Delian called it just a little bit too early, but the move is finally happening. Page paid $101 million in December to buy one of the properties, a waterfront compound in Coconut Grove that had long been the home of the late restaurateur Jonathan Lewis. He then purchased a nearby Coconut Grove property for $71.9 million from heiress Sloan Lindemann Barnett and her husband Roger Barnett.
Okay, and let's pull up. There was some interest in one of these homes that Larry bought. We can pull it up. I put it at the bottom of the timeline.
Yes.
But one of the homes that he purchased looks fantastic.
Yeah,
looks like
great.
This jungle oasis, and then you zoom in a little bit.
Do the CSI enhance.
If you enhance it a little bit,
and it
starts to get a little
odd.
A little odd. haven't.
It has
But
a
it's
warning.
not. It's not. It's just a sculpture. We can
Hopefully,
show it.
let's see. This is going to be a jump scare if it's anything but this.
Yes.
Yep.
So you have to show the zoomed out picture.
So
because
scroll
this
down,
just-
show the zoomed out photo. Oh wait, no, it's not there. Don't scroll there too much.
Don't scroll
we need to
too
find
much.
the original photo.
The original photo is just
Where did the original photo go? We'll find that and we'll tell
Here, I
you.
put it here.
But basically, it's a real estate photo. It's a photo that was taken clearly.
This
the
is
real
not-
estate agent hired
before
a
it was
photo
Larry's
team.
house.
Before it was Larry's house, to be clear. So
Yeah, look,
this is
so
the
this
photo.
is the photo.
And then people started zooming in, and you keep zooming in, and you keep zooming in, and you keep zooming
like,
in,
what's going
and you
on
start
here?
seeing some very weird design and interior decorating decisions that tell a little bit of a weird story about whoever was here. Usually these properties are staged before they are photographed. So
Who
an
owned the
odd
house?
choice.
Who owned it previously?
Also, it's something that
Tyler, can you try to find out the previous owner of this house?
I don't know. So I mean, we do have some. Jonathan Lewis is one, and Sloan Lindemann Barnett and her husband Roger Barnett are the others. If this is Larry Page's new house, but I know Sergey also.
Some guy named Jeffrey.
Oh, no. And they declined to comment. California's proposed ballot initiative would impose a one-time 5% tax on the assets of billionaires. It would retroactively apply to those who were California residents as of January 1st, 2026. Now, this proposal is not even on the ballot yet. It's still being workshopped, but many tech billionaires are not taking any chances, and they're relocating as of January 1st or December 31st in many cases.
December 31st was really the day to send the press release.
It was. Pretty much every other day I'm showing property to a client from the San Francisco Bay Area, says Dina Goldentire of Douglas Elliman. Every conversation I overhear, they're talking about the wealth tax and how it's retroactive. They're in a hurry, and they're all looking at the same houses. Several agents told the Wall Street Journal they couldn't talk about the deals because they'd signed non-disclosure agreements that could end their careers if broken. The former Lewis compound spans about 4.5 acres on Biscayne Bay and Coconut Grove, one of the city's most coveted neighborhoods. Lewis was the son of the late Peter B. Lewis, one-time CEO of Progressive Insurance Company. What a great business. The property listed for $135 million in 2024 was most recently asking $115. The estate has two primary residences. One was designed for the Secretary of State, William Jennings Bryan, in the 1920s, and Lewis built the other home for his father around 2002. The other property purchased by the Barnetts for $45.9 million in 2021 is less than a mile away. Sloan is the daughter of billionaire George L. Lindemann, and Roger is the chief executive of health supplement maker Shakely. I don't know Shakely, actually. The Barnetts sold a San Francisco mansion to a billionaire, Lauren Powell Jobs, wife of the late Apple visionary Steve Jobs, for around $70 million in 2024, setting a record for the California city. The Barnett property wasn't on the market at the time of the deal, so little information is available. Real estate data website Property Shark shows it was built around 2015 and spans 17,000 square feet with 7 bedrooms. Page and Sergey Brin founded Google as Stanford students in 1998 and built it into one of the world's most valuable companies, or one of them. Stepped back from active management in 2019 and maybe getting back in the arena during the AI boom. Page is worth around $270 billion, according to Bloomberg. In addition to his home in Palo Alto, he obtained New Zealand residency in 2021. Miami's ultra-luxury market has skyrocketed in recent years. In 2025, there were 19 sales above $50 million in Florida, compared with just 12 in New York and 10 in California. Miami had 4 deals above $100 million last year. Billionaire hedge funder Ken Griffin paid $106 million for a Coconut Grove estate.
Miami really makes Southern California look cheap.
It does.
Ask a Miami guy to watch him browse Zillow.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, they're giving the houses away here.
Well, let me tell you about Vibe.co, where D2C brands, B2B startups, and AI companies advertise on streaming TV, pick channels, target audiences, and measure sales, just like on Meta. And you know what else is surprisingly expensive? Nashville. I had no idea, but there is a Nashville condo that, quote, where it's James Bond meets Lenny Kravitz, and it just is for sale now for $33.5 million. So if you're looking to hang out with John Fiorentino, out in Nashville. You got to pick this one up. It's 5,000 square feet.
Wait, doesn't John live
bedrooms.
in the Four Seasons?
I think he might.
Not to dock,
But if you want to get Volta from the source, you got to head to Nashville and hit John Fio on X with a DM. In Nashville, where luxury home prices have skyrocketed in recent years, a penthouse at the Four Seasons Hotel and private residences is aiming for a record $33.5 million asking price. The condo unit is the city's most expensive home for sale. The penthouse is also available. You can rent it if you don't have $33 million to spare. It's going to cost you $200,000 a month, and you got to commit to at least 6 months. But if you have 1.2 mil, burning a hole in your pocket, you want to hang out in Nashville with one of the greatest idea guys to ever do it, John Fiorentino. Maybe pick this up.
It's just funny. I just realized the guy selling this house is a buddy of mine.
Oh, really?
I actually bought my house through his office.
Jamie Parsons? Or?
This is Cortazzo.
Oh, okay, yeah. The newly completed Four Seasons in downtown Nashville near the Ascend Amphitheater. What? Ascend Amphitheater? They're ascending out in Nashville?
Whoa. Is that where you spent winter break?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ascend Amphitheater just looks maxing. John has been looking good recently. He must have been spending some time there. It's a few minutes walk away from Broadway, and a thoroughfare famous for its bars and live country music, about 2 miles away from Taylor Swift's longtime home in the city. The penthouse spans roughly 5,000 square feet with 3 bedrooms and a balcony. Lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, the unit has expansive views of the city and Cumberland River. Chris Cortazzo, a Malibu, California real estate agent, bought the penthouse for $12 million in 2022 when it was just a shell. There were no walls, kitchen, he said. There was nothing there. He spent 2 years building out the unit in an aesthetic he calls James Bond meets Lenny Kravitz, anchored by a circular floating fireplace. Wow. Floating fireplace, that's cool. The residence has about $1 million in smart home technology. He lives full-time in Malibu, but began visiting Nashville around 5 years ago, Cortazzo did. He also owns a roughly 150-acre farm outside the city, he said, and has spent only a few weekends at the penthouse since completing it earlier this year. Cortazzo is also listing the Malibu home of the late actress Shannon Doherty, a longtime friend of his. Oh, I heard about this news. That property hit the market last year for $9.45 million and has a listing price that has since been reduced to $8.75 million. Nashville's luxury real estate market has surged over the past 6 years, according to Parsons. While only one home traded for over $10 million in Nashville, Kruger said that she believes the figure almost hit 20 in 2025. If Cortazzo's home sells at or near its record asking price, it will set a record for Nashville. The current record is held by a suburban home on 50 acres that sold for $32 million in 2024. So if you're looking to head over to Nashville, pick up this penthouse. I've never lived in a penthouse, a condo like this.
Then you've never lived.
I've never lived, but personally, I would be going for the 50-acre suburban home. Too many dogs, too many animals around. I want the steeds around. I want to be able to ride the horses. But for the right person in the right time of their life, I'm sure this is a fantastic pickup.
In other news,
Phantom Cash. Fund your wallet without exchanges or middlemen, and spend with the Phantom card.
France will delay the G7 summit to avoid conflict with mixed martial arts.
Really? On Donald Trump's birthday?
Yeah, so they're going to delay Group of Seven summit to avoid a conflict with the mixed martial arts event planned at the White House on Donald Trump's birthday.
Do you think they have a group chat for the G7? And it was like, hey, can we get together? We got to get together.
We got to get together.
We got to do a summit. Let's do a summit,
it's been too
guys.
Long.
G7 leaders. Let's do it. And Trump's in there just being like, dude, I already told Dana I'm in. I'm watching UFC that
It's
night.
happening in my house.
It's happening in my house.
It's going to be really awkward if I'm not there.
I got to be there.
I got to be there.
Plan another summit, another time. This is interesting. Usually there's some big news that comes out of G7 summits. Usually there's, all the leaders get together, they're striking deals, they're talking to each other. There's something going on.
Yeah, so definitely worth still doing, worth delaying, but worth doing.
Well, speaking of Trump, Lip Bhutan is in his good graces. Donald Trump posted
his new best friend
on Truth Social. He says, I just finished a great meeting with the very successful Intel CEO, Lip Bhutan, LBT, as he's called, for those who know. Intel just launched the first sub-2 nanometer CPU processor designed, built, and packaged right here in the US of A. The United States government is proud to be a shareholder in Intel and has already made, through its USA ownership position, tens of billions of dollars for the American people in just 4 months. We made a great deal, and so did Intel. Our country is
You're kind of slipping into the,
By the end of the year, I'm going to have it down. Our country is determined to bring leading-edge chip manufacturing back to America, and that is exactly what is happening. And people are asking for particular financial advice, which we will not give. But Liputan also sat down with Howard Lutnick. Howard says, just 4 months after the United States invested in Intel, that investment is already delivering tens of billions of value to the United States people. That momentum continues with Intel's new 1.8 nanometer processor and a major step towards bringing semiconductor manufacturing back home. Let's play this clip from Liputan talking to Howard Lutnick.
I have the pleasure today of welcoming Lip-Bu, and he's come to the Department of Commerce to update us on how Intel has been doing since we made our historic investment in the company.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so delighted to come over here to see you. We doubled the market cap. It's over 200 billion.
200 billion. Let's go.
And also very exciting, we announced our products first time on the 18A production in Series 3 processor with multiple of our customers in US globally, and using that is the most advanced design and also using our most advanced 18A productions.
Right, so for the United States, we love the fact that Intel is doing leading edge work in America.
In America.
Right, 18A means 1.8 nanometer. 14A is 1.4 nanometer. I mean, think of how incredibly sophisticated and tiny that is.
And complex.
And then packaging.
Yes.
You take this little teeny thing and how you put layers and layers of sophisticated circuitry on top of it. And you do it with, just the most amazing technology. And you're going to be doing that
Seems like it.
in America, leading in America by a U.S. company.
Get yourself an investor that talks about your company like
really
this.
Proud. So we're proud of you.
This is
okay, we're rooting for you, and we need you to be successful for America.
Thank you so much.
This is the new startup launch video. You do a deal, you raise some money from a VC, and you got to put out a video like that. You guys sitting down on the couch next to each other with some Succession music, and they explain your business, shake your hand, and
there's so many new formats.
Yeah, new format, unexplored, unexplored. Clone that one. Call a video production team. Get it done. In some other news, U.S. oil executive is commenting on Venezuela. No one wants to go in there when a random effing tweet can change the entire foreign policy of the country. And Deep Dish Enjoyer says LMAO. It is remarkable how online this administration is. You saw during people have been celebrating the death of X, and yet during the invasion, in one of the images of the war room, in the background on the TV was just x.com/search for Venezuela. Let's see what people are saying. Remarkable times.
Next time they'll probably have Reggie's monitoring the situation.
They should have
dashboard.
done that. They should also be using Railway. Railway simplifies software development. Web apps, servers, and databases run in one place with scaling, monitoring, and security built in. I posted a piece about the Apple Card and how it's changing from Goldman Sachs to Jamie Dimon's JP Morgan, of course, and a software architect for Goldman Sachs's consumer bank, Matt Lowe, chimed in and says, good article. I think the main reason it didn't work with Goldman Sachs is that it lost its high priority in a double whammy. CEO David Solomon used a lot of his power to evolve the partnership culture to an exec-first modern corporation. That's interesting. Through that reorg, I speculate he had less political flexibility to defend Marcus from other partners who didn't want to wait for the consumer bank to scale up. Marcus even grew through leadership turnover during the pandemic and made a huge acquisition of GreenSky. It seemed to fizzle out and lost the continued executive sponsorship it needed to keep going while reporting to an asset and wealth management division. Note in a in last couple weeks' podcast with Sequoia Capital, Solomon said the main reason for the wind down was regulatory. Interesting. So just some extra context around the Apple Card. Well, let me tell you about Graphite, and then we'll bring in our first guest of the show. Code review for the age of AI. Graphite helps teams on GitHub ship higher quality software faster. And without any further delay, let's bring in Jeremy from SemiAnalysis. How are you doing? Good to see you again. Second time on the show.
Hey guys.
So
Happy New Year.
excited to have you here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you? Are you shocked to see that the G7 that's supposed to happen in France? Aren't you in France right now?
I'm in France right now, yeah.
Well, you're going to have to wait for the summit because UFC takes priority in America, apparently. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Anyway, congratulations on the new article. I would love for you to set the table for us and explain sort of what were the questions that you were trying to answer, what was the overall thesis that you came into this particular article, how AI labs are solving the power crisis, and then I have a whole bunch of questions that I want to dig into.
Yeah, look, the question that we keep receiving every day, every hour, it seems, is how are we going to power the AI race?
Yeah.
Is the grid able to handle all of that?
Yeah.
And look, last time I came in, I think I said, hey, there's like over half a terawatt of data center load requests in all of the US grid, an insane amount of requests. And we talk about sort of prisoner's dilemma where because everyone is trying to find power, then it creates sort of a vicious cycle of everyone starts being more speculative and putting requests everywhere. And so basically the grid is overwhelmed.
Yeah.
People can't find energy. And so that's why you're seeing the rise of on-site gas, which is something that a lot of people have been talking about. But from our research, we just haven't found sort of any good way to understand what are people actually doing. What are the challenges? What are the systems that people are actually deploying? What's the benefits? What are the trade-offs? And how to understand, how to make sense of all of these new entrants.
Yeah.
Because one of the key highlights is, okay, everyone talks about GE Vernova, everyone talks about Siemens Energy, but we count actually 12 manufacturers that have secured orders of over 400 megawatts for US data centers, all on-site gas power.
Yeah.
There's way more people in the pipeline.
Yeah.
But essentially, we wanted to show people how are the labs solving the power crisis. Talk about, to some extent, XAI was a bit of a pioneer because obviously it did that before everyone.
Yeah.
And how are the other players following suit and actually solving this issue?
Yeah, let's stay with that point about power requests from AI companies. That's expanded significantly, correct? Isn't it? It's over 10 terawatts now or something like that. Everyone's spamming with these requests, isn't it? It's an insane figure. Is that roughly correct, or?
I don't know about 10 terawatts.
Not 10. It's over one,
roughly,
though.
Roughly a terawatt.
Roughly a terawatt.
It's always complicated to know exactly.
Yeah.
But roughly a terawatt.
And what are the mechanics of a request for power? Is that going to government-run organizations? Is that a permitting process? Like, what is the anatomy of actually making a request for power if you're an AI company?
Sure. So typically you send a request to a transmission provider.
Okay.
So say American Electric Power, the largest in the US. You send them a request, I want power in Ohio.
Yeah.
You have to fill some kind of form. You tell them what you want, by when you want it. And then if sort of that first phase moves through, you have to go through a system level study.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason we have to do that, and that process, the reason it takes time is because the way the grid works is demand and supply have to be always perfectly synchronized. And if they fall out of sync because there's too much supply or too much demand, then there's basically a blackout for everyone. That's the worst case scenario, to be clear. But it's possible. It has happened. It happened in Spain about a year ago because of an issue on the supply side. And so the implication is that if you want to interconnect a 1 gigawatt data center, you're going to have plenty of system level studies that are going to slow down the process. And this is where you get into that sort of vicious cycle because everyone is sort of putting requests because they know it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Well, also, isn't there some people putting in requests just from a speculation standpoint? They're just like, hey, I know that if I get access to the power, I can resell it to somebody else, and if I just kind of lock into one of these
deals,
grids, basically giving me a contract, then I can go and flip it. Is that happening?
Everyone wants megawatts these days or gigawatts. So you try what you can to get some. And if you're, for example, say you're based in Ohio, you typically operate in Columbus, Ohio. Then suddenly you tell your utility, hey, I want another 500 megawatts. And they respond, actually, I've had like 10 other people ask me this. So you're going to be in the queue. And there's 10 other requests I have to evaluate before I get to yours.
Is there this is why some of the Bitcoin miners have done actually very surprisingly well in just sort of like pivoting to AI because they had the pre-existing power deals in place, right?
Yeah, it's not in the queue; it already exists. Because the queue is just an evaluation. But then once you have everything approved, you have to build a substation. You have to actually interconnect your data center to the grid. And the Bitcoin miners, they already have the substation. They already have the transformers on site. They already have the energy flowing. The electrons are there. So for them, it's just about retrofitting and just leveraging the megawatts that they have.
Is there anything that I mean, we were reviewing this. This Meta deal today, and they have someone on staff who's the director of global energy. Is there anything that a team or one of these hyperscalers can do to move through the queue quicker? I mean, I imagine they can't just like overpay or bribe, or it would otherwise just be an auction process. But is it sort of a battle of the forms? Is that actually happening? Is it just a battle of the forms? Is it the regulatory team that you have on site? Is it different like scientists that are driving the work, or is it just all the best legal team wins? Like, what is the anatomy of actually winning allocation in power?
So the first thing we have to flag is there are many different transmission providers in the US, so many different bodies that work differently.
Okay.
But there's a few ways you can do. So first of all, if you're a sophisticated end user, what you're going to do is analyze the grid and try to understand where does it make sense to have power from a grid congestion perspective. Analyzing the network, you realize, okay, this area probably should have free power, so I'm going to talk to my utility. And if you wanna have a better chance of being ahead of others, then at least you have identified a specific spot that is likely to have available power. Now, to be clear, relationships obviously matter. If you've been in the business for 10 years or whatever, and you're good friends with C-level executives, you can perhaps move up the grid just because of trust. It's not about necessarily bribing or something like that. It's more about you have a whole lot of new entrants. You have a whole lot of new entrants that don't have a lot of experience, and then you have this other guy that maybe has been doing it for 10 years and has a lot of experience and success. So obviously for the utility, it's easier to trust the guy that has the track record and has the existing relationship. So that's one angle.
Sure. I'm interested to know about your process to understand how much power each player is actually accumulating. I've seen the semi-analysis watermark screenshots of data centers. Is satellite imagery actually that useful for understanding like the map of total data center capacity? Are you looking at regulatory filings? Are you looking at statements from the companies themselves? Like, it feels like you're at least 1 or 2 clicks ahead of what the executives of these companies are publicly saying, and the purpose of semi-analysis is to provide analysis and data ahead of what's publicly available. But what is the process for actually understanding Azure's compute capacity this year before anyone else does?
Yeah, sure thing. So there's different to some extent lead times. For us, the way we do call it the short-term forecast. Short term being roughly the next 6 quarters.
Sure.
Extensive satellite imagery. We love satellites. We pay a lot of money for satellites. Every single blog these days, you see satellite pictures. And it's pretty simple. Right. One thing is using historical imagery, figuring out when did construction of specific building start. 2 is what's the typical time to build for an operator. So you have to get a sense of like having reviewed many of their buildings, how long do they typically take, or sort of understanding the design patterns, how maybe they can accelerate the build out to what extent, right? And then if you know how long it takes and when it started, you can know when it's going to be operational. Then it's about the size. It's also about, if it's a large project, how fast can you get it up to speed? Because one thing is to build the shell, and the other one is to build all the electrical, all the mechanical, and obviously deliver sequentially, data hall by data hall typically. So there's a bunch of things you can review. We use all of it. Satellites, we're big fans, of course. And like some of to us, it's interesting because we've been able to be very successful at predicting trends with regards to hyperscalers by analyzing data sets. Because you have to think of it. I'm saying you can just use satellite imagery, but you have to do it for hundreds of data centers.
Yeah.
And who has the time to do that? Wait, we do. We're crazy.
That's awesome.
But it works out because if you think about it, Amazon, they accelerated growth right from 70% to 20% last quarter, and a lot of people were surprised because people were saying, no, they're losing AI. Azure has accelerated, Google has accelerated, and Amazon hasn't. But actually, if you analyze data center construction, they've been accelerating like crazy on the construction side in the third quarter 2024, in the fourth quarter 2024. It takes a year for them to build. Obviously, you see the acceleration flow mechanically Q3 25, Q4 25. That's one aspect. The other one, which is a bit more complicated, is tracking the leases. And so sort of understanding what are the different hyperscalers leasing capacity from third-party operators. The big guys are QTS, Digital Realty, Equinix, and there's all the crypto miners that are basically doing the same thing. And that's also something we track very closely. And it's complicated because some of that information isn't public, but by triangulating many data points, you can actually get to the answer using only public data, which is what we do extensively. And using permits, digging into filings and all of that is a huge part of the process as well to get to the answer.
As I understand,
how much are you guys benefiting from like actual AI tooling on the research side? Like, are you guys running like 20 agents in parallel that are basically like looking
processing
at a lot of these
PDFs
filing,
and
trying to find them, monitoring them,
data.
et cetera? Are you feeling an unlock?
Yeah. So we're using AI quite a bit. I think we can do more. I wish we could do more. To some extent, obviously, it's bound by computer use. There's some complications. There's some portals for permit purposes, permit tracking purposes that we can automate. But the problem is that if you think about it, there are so many states, so many counties, so many different things, and some of them are fairly easy to use. And so today's agents can actually automate the process. Other ones are maybe more complicated, more archaic, right? Some of them you have a clean PDF. Other ones, it's like a scanner. It's written by hand. There's a lot of different stuff when you go into the weeds of the permitting process in the US. So we do automate quite a bit. What we're starting to do, this is a pretty interesting project that we have on the data center side, is a vision model where you can actually, based on satellite imagery, detect real time sort of what's the status of construction and understand sort of the inflections that you see as well on the planet.
Zooming out, it feels like I think you quoted it something like 0.5 gigawatt of new data center capacity was being added for a period of years, sort of linear growth. And now we're seeing a break in the graph and we're seeing exponential growth. And I'm wondering how you're thinking about. There's always this question of like, when will AI show up in the GDP statistics? It's obviously a big business and there's a lot of revenue, but we're not seeing the 10% GDP growth just yet. Maybe that's coming. When will we see
productivity growth? I mean,
productivity growth.
CNBC yesterday was trying to figure out why U.S. economic productivity surged almost 5%, highest in 6 years.
Maybe. But I mean, my question with regard to like overall U.S. power generation, are you expecting to see a meaningful acceleration, a break in the graph there this year, next year, or is the data center overall energy picture still a small enough slice of the pie in terms of overall American energy production and consumption that we won't see it move the overall needle just yet?
Oh, it's already moving the needle. It's just going to accelerate. There's just one direction, at least for the next, call it 2 years. One thing you can do is a lot of the utilities are publicly traded, so you can go one by one. Every single one of them, the only thing they're talking about these days is data centers. Is how much load growth I have and and then it's about capacity constraints. Can I deliver on that demand? But all of them are seeing tremendous load growth. And if you think about the leading indicators on the data center side, so for us, we use two things on this. If you think about self-build, so the data centers that are built and operated by hyperscalers, construction starts are exploding. So they're all massively accelerating. They have accelerated tremendously versus 2022, 23. So 24 was a big year, 25 insane. So this is a leading indicator with regards to what's going to happen in 26 for CapEx, for revenue, and obviously for load growth, because these days it's all correlated. And on the leasing side, same thing. If you think about how much data center commitments are the hyperscalers doing these days, it's also just up and to the right. 2025 has been an insane year for the leasing market. And so everything points to 26, 27, just accelerating. And then if you think about GDP growth, because I think it's an interesting topic, there's two things you can talk about. One is on the infrastructure side, and the other one is on the productivity side. On the infrastructure side, you're already seeing it. But I think it's pretty easy to look at statistics. You can look at data center contribution to GDP. There's a bunch of stuff from some of the agencies. You can look at computer investments. There's a specific GDP row that tells you all of that is exploding. Roughly speaking, a guesstimate is over 50% of GDP growth today is AI infrastructure, which is kind of insane if you think about it, right? And you can do some monkey math as well, right? You see NVIDIA's revenue. What is it these days? Like 250 billion annualized or more. If you do the math, right, a lot of that is going to the US. Now, there's obviously it's complicated because there's imports and things like that you have to deduce. But US GDP is over 30 trillion, right? 1% is 300 billion. Easily year-over-year additions, AI infra investments over 300 billion. Taking it all, right? Power plants, data centers, chips, and all of that.
Yeah, and then that should drive significant GDP growth.
And then the second phase of this is on the productivity side. Obviously, you have to see, to some extent, you would expect to see the people that are providing that productivity to be beneficiaries. And so this is why it's important to track what are the AI labs doing, what are the startups doing, which is something we've been tracking pretty closely recently at Semi Analysis. And so if you look at the AI labs, yes, they're all accelerating pretty fast as well on the revenue side. Like you saw OpenAI tripling revenue, Anthropic 10x, and so on and so forth.
Can you take me through the latest bottleneck in gas turbines? We had Blake Scholl from Boom on the show, and it feels like he's expanding his business to build turbines. And I'm interested in that specifically because we hear about nuclear power plants coming online. That's obviously a very heavy regulatory burden. Also, supersonic flight feels like incredible regulatory burden. But how difficult is it to just manufacture a new turbine or more of the same design, bring them online, actually ramp up capacity of natural gas turbines?
So typically to develop a new turbine, you're talking about 7 to 10 years R&D process. Wow. So it's pretty fascinating because you have a few new entrants that are hitting the market today. A big one is Doosan. Doosan is providing roughly 2 gigawatts of turbines to XAI. Doosan, Korean giants on the nuclear side. They've been developing their turbine for over 10 years. And it's like, perfect timing. They have a turbine shell.
What amazing timing. That's great.
It's pretty lucky. Pro Energy is another interesting example. Also, 7-year R&D program, and late 23. Finally, they got all the approvals. It's just very complex technology. A lot of very high precision materials. So ramping up the manufacturing side is complicated. Another thing to think about, and that's the difference we have with folks like Bloom, is what is how long can you make your investment when you build a new factory for gas turbines or some of these systems? And this is an interesting thing to analyze because for some folks it's actually easier to build new capacity because their payback period is much higher, and because their revenue per megawatt is higher, and because their cost is also higher.
Just because the prices are going up because AI labs are willing to pay more for the turbines?
So yes, but I'm more thinking about comparing different technologies. Like if you think about Bloom Energy, the cost to buy fuel cells is very high. It is much higher than buying a turbine. But the flip side of this is that the payback period, because the revenue is so high per megawatt, the payback period of building a factory is actually much shorter. So from Bloom's perspective, they take less financial risk if they expand capacity and they manufacture more. Pretty good position.
That makes a lot of sense.
How did you react to the Meta Oklo news from this morning?
Well, I mean, it's I think all of these folks are looking for energy that is cheap, stable. Are looking for ways to ensure the continuity of their supply. And it just makes sense for all of the hyperscalers to work with the nuclear companies. It's not a surprise because everyone has done it already, right? You saw Google as well with Kairos. You saw a bunch of these deals already switched with Oklo as well about a year ago. So not too surprised about this one.
How much does the nuclear fission or even the fusion stuff, Google's partnered with Commonwealth Fusion Systems on a few things, how much does that play into the analysis that you do when you're looking out 6 quarters? Because when we saw the date 2029, 2032, 2035, our eyes kind of roll back in the back of our head and say, well, that feels post singularity. So what's the point? Probably important at some point, but certainly less of a critical decision in the horse race of which lab will get power next month to train the next model that we're all going to be focused on.
Yeah, exactly. That's why if you read the report that we wrote, it's all about gas, because if you think about the next few quarters, it's gas. There's just no other solution. Nuclear is going to take a few years. Solar and battery is not ready yet. All of these other alternatives, I think they all have good potential, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of different solutions in 5-10 years, but today it's just gas.
So you're modeling energy. It's mostly gas. Any plans to model or analyze or model water? Is that important at all?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, big topic these days, right?
Yeah.
Overview, generally speaking, is that water is not that big of a problem because in the data center space, you have this trade-off between energy and water. And so you can actually design closed-loop systems that consume pretty much no water. In some cases, zero water. There is some water required just to build the initial tank and the initial loop, but it's closed loop, so you don't need water. So what's the issue, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a funny retort to anyone who's worried about the water, the AI water usage. Just if it's important, why doesn't semi-analysis talk about it ever? Why are people not trading the water stocks if it's important? I am interested in
we might talk about it soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of angle, but on the question of water usage, it does seem like Meta is moving from an air-cooled system to a water-cooled system. I think I have that right. They moved away from the H design of their data center. Can you tell me more about why the H-shaped data center was not suitable for water cooling? It felt like a very modern building. Why was it impossible to retrofit that? Why did they have to go with an entirely new design?
Yeah, so the thing about the H design above everything is it was really designed by Meta for leading cost efficiency. And so typically the ratio people use is the PUE, which tells you what's the energy efficiency of a given facility. Meta had the world's most efficient facilities. The energy required to cool the data center was extremely low. And that's because it had a fairly complex structure, 3 stories. The drawback of that is that the time to build a facility was about 2 years. So that doesn't work in the AI era. We're talking about a month, right? It's 122 days for XAI. So you need to go faster. So that's one of the main issues. Now, the other one with regards to cooling, the way that we're cooling this specific data center is I call it an air-to-air system. You could simplify it and say they open the window. That's basically how they call the data center. They open the window. Obviously, they have a bunch of stuff.
Have we tried opening the window?
I actually toured George Hotz's. He has a miniature data center, just a couple racks of GPUs that he trains for autonomous driving, for self-driving cars that he builds. And his cooling, it really is just like a window unit that just flows air through this particular room in his office. And he's using air.
I had a car with no AC once.
Open the windows.
Just open the window.
It's a time-honored tradition. But sorry, I cut you off.
It works. It works. It doesn't work that well if your hardware is liquid cooled. Obviously, if you have a cold plate that goes through the chip, then the question is, how do you cool the fluid that you put into the cold plate to remove the heat from the chip? Opening the window doesn't work that well. You can do some kind of retrofit with liquid-to-air CDUs. It's expensive. It's not very efficient. So the best way to do it is to have a dedicated fluid cooling system, which involves building a whole dedicated piping infrastructure and all of that, which is what Meta did. Their new data center can handle seamlessly liquid-cooled chips, whereas the old one was much more complicated.
Do you have a view on, you said Meta's previous data center, I think it was 150 megawatts, 2 years to build it. How fast are they now? Are they at 6 months, a year? Do you have any idea of where they will be on the speed frontier, since that seems so critical?
Yeah, so H, you're 2.5 years, roughly speaking. Then they built some sort of rectangular design, which is 12 to 15 months. And then they realized, actually, we need to go faster. And that's when you started seeing the tents. And these tents, the goal is to be able to put out a GPU cluster in 6 months. We'll fit one of these tents.
Wow, that's fast.
And it's interesting because they go back to an air-to-air cooling system. So what I told you earlier actually is wrong, because despite hardware being increasingly liquid-cooled, now they're doing air-to-air, again, opening the window.
Sure.
But they have those sidecars, which are liquid-to-air, which are expensive again.
Okay.
It's one way to go faster. That way you don't have to build a whole like piping infra and all that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about how the other hyperscalers are matching up in terms of speed, but also a lot of the other hyperscalers, a lot of the big tech companies had made commitments to maybe move away from natural gas to maybe go more net zero, more energy efficient, more carbon neutral. That feels like the water debate is maybe a moot point, but there will be some sort of climate discussion in the future as more and more natural gas gets brought online. It is a fossil fuel after all, or it is not a renewable energy source. So how are there any big tech companies that are grappling with that or struggling to get through previous commitments that they made to be more environmental or more net zero, and now they sort of have to retool their business and messaging?
Yeah, you've already starting seeing this in 2025, but in 2024, where they all said, for the time being, we keep our commitment for whatever 2030 or something, net zero, but short term. We're not gonna be able to meet our goals and to clean our fleet as fast as we expected. But there's just no way. There are a few interesting things. So the first thing I would say is you're seeing some projects that are natural gas based, but they have ways to become more sustainable. For example, it could be a site where you have great geology to do carbon capture. So Crusoe has a one like that in Wyoming. So that's those types of projects obviously have a long-term potential as well, because then you can meet your commitment if you're still committed to that. It's clear they're already that committed, but other topic. The other thing is, so Google, I'd say generally from our analysis, Google seems to be still the most committed hyperscaler. And they're doing some pretty interesting stuff in Texas, right? You saw the acquisition of Intersect Power. They're building some massive campuses in Texas where they actually have on-site solar energy and battery. But to be clear, it's not behind the meter. The reason we don't talk about it in the article is because it's not fully off-grid. There's still a grid connection. So it's not really comparable to the off-grid deployments of folks with turbines and
interesting. Yeah, on the Google topic, is there any sort of durable advantage in multi-data center training that you're seeing from Google? Are you seeing evidence that they're leaning into that more? Are they building more smaller data centers, or are they also I don't know off the top of my head, are they competing with like the Colossus 2? These, Mark Zuckerberg comes out with the picture of the cube in Manhattan, and it's very clear that that Meta is in the one big massive data center race. At least they're trying to visualize it that way. I haven't seen that from Google. Is that intentional? Is there anything we can read into that about their actual training and deployment strategy?
No, you're right. That's a good point. It is interesting to analyze the different, frontier AI training architectures from different players. If you look at what Meta is trying to build in Louisiana, it's a 2.1 gigawatt campus for the first phase, and they have individual buildings that are 400 megawatts each per building. It's pretty insane.
Microsoft, it's big, OpenAI, but it's still split up. It's still split up. But then putting it all on the same campus, there's some sort of economy of scale around power generation, or is the latency with the fiber connections actually relevant, and you wouldn't want to have it across town, so you put it on the same campus? Like, when would a big tech player choose to split across state lines, across the country, across the world, versus centralize everything in one campus?
So I would say for now, Google is really the only one that's had adopted this strategy and is very unique about it. To some extent, you could argue it's because of first of all, they're the most sophisticated on the networking side. For a while, like that's one of the advantages with Google is for the last 15 years or whatever, they've been the best at infrastructure. On every single part of infrastructure. And so networking, they've been building their own fiber networks for a while. And so they have much higher bandwidth inside a metro and between metros and other hyperscalers because they've been doing that longer. They've been planning ahead for all of that. So Google is sort of ahead of the others. And on the tech side, they've figured out multi-data center training from a model perspective way ahead of everyone else. They've been very open about this. Right, you had a podcast from Jeff Dean, for example, a few months ago, where he said openly, "Yes, we're doing a multi-data center, works pretty well."
Yeah,
no one else has really done it at that scale for now. We have a bunch of startups, but they're not doing it at scale.
Sure.
So yeah, just Google is better at doing it, and what it enables them to do is it enables them to some extent have more options with regards to site selection. They're not really limited to finding the one 2 gigawatt site or the one 1.5 gig site. They can just go around a metro, maybe a 50-mile or even a 100-mile area, and find a bunch of sites that are each 200, 300, 400, 500. Connect them, and bam, they have a 2 gigawatt campus. So that's the strategy they're pursuing.
That makes sense. Last question for me, and we'll let you get back to your day. I know it's late there. Have AI workloads, has a shift in AI workloads had any effect on power decision making? It feels like you go back a couple of years ago and the vast majority of power that was being used by AI was for training. Now we're moving more towards inference. Does that change the landscape of power acquisition for AI companies broadly, or is it sort of an irrelevant point?
So first of all, I would actually disagree with the premise. Based on our analysis, training is still the majority, and it's growing equally as fast as inference. Inference is surging, but training is surging as well, and that's normal because you have an incentive to do it. Everyone wants to invest in the model that is going to unlock revenue growth next year. Sure. We haven't seen the limit, so the incentives are aligned to invest today, and that's what everyone is doing.
Interesting.
Anyways, to answer your question, yes, inference does have different requirements. There's different types of inference as well. If you think about OpenAI, for example, they have two main businesses. ChatGPT is a vertical application. It's fully controlled by themselves. So for them, they can plan larger campuses. Can be gigawatt scale, can be a few hundred megawatts. It's going to be big campus anyways. They can make use of smaller ones, but if you think about it from an infrastructure perspective, what is their biggest pain point as a company is they want to maximize GPU utilization rate. This is the single largest expense by far, is GPU. So they need to maximize it, and that's easier to do when you have large campuses. So that's why you still see campuses that are fairly large, even for inference. They also, in terms of latency, that's a common sort of a topic of discussion. Do you need to be very close to the end users? Well, if you think about it, what is actually consuming power for OpenAI? It's deep research. It's GPT 5.2 Pro. It's these thinking models, and they take minutes to answer, and so you don't really need to be near a metro. You can just be sort of far away and still find large pockets of power.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Congratulations on the progress.
Really appreciate the episode.
Semi-analysis is hiring, correct? Can you take us on a brief summary of roles or how to apply?
Oh, yeah, we're hiring a lot of people. So we have a careers section in our website, so you can all check out. We're looking for folks in the AI space. So if you're interested in digging into what we call tokenomics, which is analyzing the economics of AI, analyzing the latest trends in terms of LLMs, different types of model architectures, reach out. If you're an engineer, you have experience with GPU clusters, reach out as well. We're hiring to increase the size of our technical team. Inference Max, really cool project as well, where we benchmark all of the different models. If you want to work on Inference Max and work on TPUs and Trainium and GPUs and AMD and NVIDIA and all of that, reach out as well. We have a lot of pretty cool offers, so you should all check out the website. And it's a good adventure.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come break it down for us. Great to see you. And Happy New Year. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Goodbye. Turbo Puffer, serverless vector and full text search built from first principles on object storage, fast, 10x cheaper, and extremely scalable.
Look at those logos.
Next, we are entering our Lambda lightning round with Andreessen Horowitz, celebrating their $15 billion fundraise. We have Jen Ka in the Restream waiting room. Let's bring her in to the TBPN Ultra Dome. How are you doing, Jen? Good to see you.
Jen, what's happening?
Hey, what's happening, brothers?
Not too much. You're off to a banger start of the year. Congratulations. Break it down for us. What happened today?
We knew we'd need a bigger gong for you guys in particular this year. And
maybe we have to distribute the gong hits across the 4 Andreessen Horowitz partners that we're talking with. We'll see.
You know what I have to say? If the gong wasn't big enough.
There we go.
There you go. Wait, what does it say? What does it say on it?
It says it's time to build, baby.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic.
There we go. You've probably been hitting that a lot. Do you just do like one hit every time you get off an LP? You get a new commit just to a light tap. You probably had to do a few of them to get up to 15.
Exactly. It's not quite your 80-inch one, but next time I'll get a horse and we'll call it even.
There we go. How are the LP pitches going into this fundraise different than in previous years? The market's evolved. Technology has evolved. Andreessen Horowitz has evolved. What were you saying that you felt like it was the first time you were saying to LPs this time around?
Yeah, so let me first break down. So $15 billion, huge headline.
Yeah.
The number is huge, but I should foremost say I normally don't respond to online rumors, but I feel the need to do so at this moment. The $15 billion is not for the Nepal or Himalayan or Greenland expedition fund, right? Well, let's just spell that right now.
People tease things all the time, little breadcrumbs in the releases. I'd like to see an American Everest. I feel like I've heard a pitch for Greenland. The moon might be American at some point. It already is in many ways, maybe Everest. But, you're putting it in startups. You're putting it in technology.
Exactly. So hope springs eternal. So the prelim number, you guys covered this yesterday, but the prelim numbers for NVCA came out to 66 billion. So that actually ended up being what would have been equivalent to 22% of what was raised in 2025 with the $15 billion. So
wait, so does the 15 billion get included? Are they going to update the 2025 numbers, or do they count it towards 2026 because it's actually being announced now?
Yeah, it's gonna get counted for 2026. So that's forward. So we're closing our fund today.
Sure. Okay,
so that would be 2026 numbers. Yep.
Cool.
And so
huge.
Calling it out, VC winter, maybe potentially over for some folks. But
fantastic.
But the sentiment, to answer your question, so the sentiment from LPs is different insofar as that we are now, this is the second set of funds that we've raised in this AI super cycle. Mm-hmm. And so we were oversubscribed in 3 months. It was, I think, very clear for most people that AI is obviously taking over the world. Yep. And particularly when LPs have conviction and also the right information, they will close quickly. So most funds, the average VC fund takes probably close to over a year to fundraise. And the reality is it's a tale of two cities. If you have great companies, great performance, great DPI, it's very, very easy to raise capital. Yeah. We are luckily in that camp. If you don't, it's just a lot tougher. And by the way, let me tell you also a story because it's related to on this liquidity topic that you guys oftentimes talk about and hear about from LPs. So, there's a lot of belly aching from LPs about liquidity, but the reality is it's in select companies. So we actually went through this whole exercise last year. So this was in the middle of liquidity concerns, and this was early days of the administration's stance on endowment tax cuts. And we internally had this conversation, said, gosh, should we offer some liquidity, particularly for some of our older funds to our LPs? So we went around, we called all of our LPs in those older vintages, and specifically we had a Stripe position, seed position in Fund 1, and then we had Databricks at the Series A in Fund 3. And we said, hey, we know you're in a liquidity crisis. Would you be interested if we got you some liquidity in those names? Yeah. And I'll tell you, 30 out of 30 of those early LPs said absolutely not. Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks. We want liquidity.
You're telling me would I like to not ride my winners? Interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's subtlety in that conversation, which is they want liquidity, but they want liquidity not out of those names. They want to ride those winners, right? They want to let them
touch. It's unfortunate. You want liquidity the most from the assets or the companies that you're least excited
about, which is this paradox. Interesting. That makes sense. Talk about the split of strategies going on at Andreessen Horowitz today. I think a lot of people were curious about crypto being included in this suite of funds. Is that just a different cycle? Yep. Is that a mechanics thing? What's going on there? Or is it truly like a completely separate thing and we'll be hearing about that later?
Yeah, so the latter. So the funds that we raised and announced today, it's 5 out of 7 of our funds. So crypto is off cycle, and then so is our games fund. Okay. So more to come from that.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
How are LPs up to speed on this kind of structure now? You obviously don't have to go into a conversation, explain Andreessen Horowitz, but most funds are not at the scale where there's this multi-front fund approach. Is that how much of the conversation is about I'm giving you capital, where is it going to be actually allocated and how is it going to be split across the funds? Is it just straight pro rata across the different strategies and funds, or how does that work?
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And in fact, I think we're one of maybe the first who actually split our funds. Most firms just have a generalist fund. Everything's out of one vehicle. Yeah. And we very early on presciently realized we needed to decentralize as a firm and then also our funds as well to match that to the teams. And so if you look at any of the individual teams, the deal teams are no bigger than 4 to 6 people.
Sure.
And so we're kind of similar to smaller funds and smaller firms, but with the breadth, of course, of the Andreessen Horowitz umbrella. And so for LPs, when they think about allocating to us, most of them just say, hey, I want to follow you into all the different funds. And they allocate pro rata. And in fact, we actually set up a vehicle to allow them to do that. Some folks pick and choose. And our view is, hey, every single fund needs to stand on its own. And it needs to earn its own keep from its LPs. And sometimes those LPs might be different, right? Some LPs, for example, internationally can't invest into certain strategies like crypto, for example, maybe American dynamism. So there's some nuance there of which we do account for.
Interesting. Yeah. How many questions are you getting from LPs about trying to predict the next Andreessen strategy that might take place in this fund? Like Andreessen started as, you look back at the early, like the fund one, and it's basically a seed fund by today's standards. Growth was obviously added on, then bio, then crypto, and then liquids, tokens. There's so many different strategies that if you went back to the dawn of Andreessen, you would say, well, that doesn't fit in this fund mandate. And we've seen firms buy hospital networks and do more private equity style deals, do more secondary deals. Are LPs looking for you to lock a strategy, or are they leaving you with a lot of flexibility? Are they looking for guidance on what might happen in the next 10 years in terms of creative financial plays that you might be able to make?
Yeah, so it's funny. Our first fund is funny, you should say, it's the size of a seed fund. The first deal we actually did was the buyout of Skype, which there's a good story around that. We made 4x our return in 18 months, and the rest is history. But that first
I always remember seeing that on Andreessen's website, and it was like it wasn't a seed bet; it was this weird deal, but it still panned out really well, and it was like a great logo to have on the portfolio page, but for peculiar reasons.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of risk in it because everyone was like, "Oh, you won't get the IP because of eBay and blah blah." And then Microsoft ended up buying it. Yeah. But and then there's a whole story there because a lot of our LPs, suffice to say, after raising a venture fund, were like, "What are you doing?" Yep. Totally. So it ended up working out. Nonetheless, we always talk about internally how the way the individual funds are set up now is almost in the incarnation of the original Andreessen Horowitz. From the size of the team, from the capabilities and resources on the operating front. And so you've got these, kind of 7 different funds and teams that are effectively the incarnation of that first Andreessen Horowitz now replicated. And that's actually how you scale. We have 600 plus people at the firm now. That's the only way you could actually nimbly move without getting mired in the morass of bureaucracy and oftentimes what big organizations end up being. And so in some respects, we're not motivated by innovating into, there's a lot of VC firms now trying their hand at private equity, as you said, buying hospitals, raising private credit strategies. Sure. Like that's not really of interest to us. I think you mentioned at one point, like going public, like as long as Ben is CEO, we are not going to be a public company. Yeah. So we don't try to innovate on fund structure, right? We like boring vanilla VC. Yeah. Kind of returns, and you give us money and we'll send you back, and where we'll take risk and innovation is on the companies we invest into.
How much do you involve individual GPs in the fundraising process? Sounds like, a 3-month process, really not that long. Are you tapping them in at key moments because certain LPs want to understand, like really get to know the individual investors, or are you like aggressively trying to protect their time because their time is really best spent with founders and actually evaluating and doing deals?
Yeah, so yes, we try to protect their time, but also at the same time, like this is just like a company. Like a fundraise is a very important exercise. And in fact, a few years ago when people were asking whether we would go away from the traditional fund structure, Mark and Ben kind of like the concept of pressure testing our thesis every couple of years, right? You got to go out to your LPs. You got to prove to them that your thesis is worthy of their capital. And then it kind of pressures you also, sorry for my voice, it's a little hoarse because I've been shouting, you're watching TBPN too often.
Like, why are deadlines now?
Exactly. But that kind of sentiment of pressure testing your thinking is incredible. And you guys know from fundraising, with companies, like you learn a lot through the course of that process as well. So all of our GPs get involved. All of them are in the meetings. They're all talking to the LPs. They're shaking the hands, kissing the babies. They are front and center of it.
How do you realign the LPs from just endless AI questions and actually keep them interested in bio, healthcare, American dynamism? Do you try and like have the AI narrative cut across everything, or is it drowning out the rest of the stories that you're trying to tell?
I think AI is similar to any platform shift where it's just going to infiltrate everything. And it's like obviously in the zeitgeist, but eventually it's just going to go in the background, just like cloud or
there was
mobile.
that quote from Mark in the launch video that was like, someday in 10 years, we won't talk about the internet because it'll just be everywhere. And it feels like we're already, I like when companies, I think this is the year where companies like maybe stop pitching AI as aggressively in taglines, because you should just assume that a company is leveraging it to the fullest extent.
100%. What else are you doing? Like, if you're not doing that. 100%. But I do think, it's great too, because I also think, with this platform shift, LPs can actually have a feel for how transformative this is themselves. So our entire, for example, fundraise process, we tried to take an AI native first approach. So we had an AI chatbot that was replicated.
I was about to ask.
In our data room, there was an AI gen in there.
Interesting.
There's an AI chatbot that was answering any question in any hour of the day. And then our LPs also are playing with these tools themselves as well in their underwriting and their diligence, but also even individually. I won't name the LP, but I was talking to an LP earlier this morning who was playing around with Replit. And I was like, you got to try it. Like, just code something that you wish, you had access to. And she's like, well, I really want to be able to code an app that can look at Peloton classes and let me know when this instructor is. I'm like, try to prompt it. And she was able to do it literally in the course of the morning. So it's one of those things where I think these worlds are converging so quickly. It's also almost great that all we're doing is testing and trying and iterating. And for the first time, LPs as users can actually see the real world visceral impact to how they run their day-to-day life.
What is general LP sentiment specifically around 2026? What are expectations? Obviously, we're expecting a slate of IPOs, and that's very exciting. If you've been in these companies, these names for a decade or more at this point.
Yeah, I feel like Elon dropped like an early Christmas present when he was, it was like rumored to say that SpaceX might be going public in 2026. And everyone was like, oh, maybe we'll go public in 2026. So I do think sentiment and people are generally positive. Obviously, we'll see where the IPO markets kind of turn out to be. But generally speaking, it's early. It's off to a good start. Like, we'll see what happens. But I do think people are expecting more capital this year in a way that once one breaks through, it's going to be a watershed moment that might even top, 2021 in terms of the amount of liquidity coming back to folks.
That's going to be exciting.
Was 15 always the target, or did you go out, thinking that you do less and then you kind of upsized it based on demand?
We had a range for our target, and we try to, kind of keep in that range just to avoid, upsetting.
But you knew it was possible, because if Masa can do 100, it's like, come on, can we can we do 15?
I won't make that comparison. It is funny in retrospect. That vision fund, as
the whole thesis was AI.
I completely blocked Vision Fund out of my head, and then I was like, I was researching before that, so I was like, okay, 15 billion has to be the biggest venture fund ever, and it was like, oh no, of course, of course.
Vision Fund. Anyway, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Congratulations on massive news, and we will talk to you soon, Jen.
Incredible work.
Awesome, great to see you guys. Catch you later.
Cheers.
See ya.
Let me tell you about Vanta. Automate compliance and security. Vanta is the leading AI trust management platform.
And thank you to the chat. There has been some updates to Claude's policies. Tyler is researching the story now, and we will get to it as soon as we can.
Well, we have Alex Rampell from Andreessen Horowitz coming in to TBPN Ultradome. Welcome to the show, Alex. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good. How are
Beautiful
you?
Background. Fantastic American flag. What a day. Congratulations. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good.
Fantastic.
Super excited to have you on. I've enjoyed. You're somebody who's I've read your writing and listened to your podcast appearances for a decade now, and always appreciated your point of view on a bunch of different things. So welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here to prove that I'm real.
Fantastic. I mean,
it's like proof of life is very important increasingly, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, first time on the show, can you give us a little bit of the backstory, the journey to Andreessen, and how long you've been there?
Sure. So I've been here for 10 years. Previously, been a long time
Overnight success.
Previously, long time entrepreneur. So kind of started by writing software when I was a kid in high school. Actually, even before that. And then out of college, I graduated in 2003. I was probably the only person from my class that just kind of became an entrepreneur right away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was smart or dumb, probably more dumb than smart. It's like I had a little business that I was running in college. So kind of kept doing that. Met this guy named Chris Dixon, who was at Harvard Business School when I was at Harvard College. And you have to remember, like 2002 when we met, the internet 1.0 had just died. Yeah. Everybody lost their jobs. September 11th had happened. And what do you do if you're a dried up entrepreneur? You go to business school. Yeah. I remember there's a company called Cosmo.com, a huge hit that kind of went to zero. What did that guy do? He went to HBS.
No way.
So Chris Dixon was there. And he and I were like the only two people, I swear, in like the entire state of Massachusetts that thought that the internet was still kind of cool. We got introduced by a mutual friend. Had coffee at Au Bon Pan, this like little East Coast chain, and then cooked up a product called Did They Read It, which is still around today. It's an email tracking tool. It embeds a tracking pixel in every email that you send out. That did pretty well. Then we started the venture-backed company together that became Site Advisor. That got acquired. And then I started another company called TrialPay to like the thing that we learned at Site Advisor is that nobody likes paying for software. Like you're willing to pay for an intangible good, like a glass of wine, $20 for that seems totally reasonable, right? Yeah. But paying $20 for one song on iTunes, there would be riots in the streets. Yeah. So the idea was, I'll give you this digital good for free if you buy something else. And if you know how affiliate marketing works, it kind of plugged into that. So it's like, hey, we'll give you this product for free if you sign up for Netflix, or if you switch to Geico, or if you shop at the Gap, or if you get a Discover card, using the affiliate commission to go pay for the product. That did pretty well. Like it was like half of the revenue of Site Advisor. It was like from my little shareware business that I used to have back in the day, it doubled our revenue. So I turned that into a company called TrialPay. That did great for a while. Then it did terribly. Then I kind of resumed to okay, sold it to Visa. And then along the way, met this guy, Max Levchin, after he had sold Slide to Google. And we cooked up a company called Affirm. So I co-founded Affirm with Max in 2012. And actually brought Affirm to Andreessen Horowitz as a funding opportunity, which they did. And Chris Dixon kind of ended up talking me into joining here in 2015. So I've been fantastic. Here ever since.
How quickly did you realize that Chris and Max were special? Because I imagine you during those two periods you were meeting hundreds of different people. I'm sure people wanted to build stuff with you, other entrepreneurs. And you picked well back to back, and it's probably the hardest, one of the hardest things to actually clock at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the greatest people, they have two things in common. They have this term that's going around a lot, like high agency. Like they don't just like follow the rules; they just like take matters into their own hands and do something. And then they just kind of know the history of everything before. Like they're just like students of history, philosophy. Like, Chris was a philosophy major. People don't know about him. He went to he went to, he got his bachelor's degree in philosophy, was going to do a PhD, kind of realized that was a bad idea. And then eventually went to business school, which was, he will probably say, the worst idea. But it was kind of self-evident. I mean, Chris and I mean,
the history thing's a real thing. Like if you're talking to an entrepreneur that has been building their business for 1 to 2 years and you can tell them companies that in somewhat recent history, in the last decade even, that have like attempted that, or companies that are adjacent, and they're like, oh, I'm not familiar with that. It's like immediately like such a bear signal.
Oh, it's a red flag. Well, the opposite, like that's the red flag. Whatever the opposite.
Green flag.
What's the opposite of
green flag?
That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, yes.
But yeah, the green flag is
never
green flag.
What's the green flag?
The green flag is not only do I know everything. I mean, I'll give you one example. I think the Collison brothers went out to like D. Hawk's ranch. D. Hawk started Visa. He's kind of like a weird quasi-communist, even though he started one of the biggest companies in the world. Because Visa was meant to be this it was a nonprofit. Visa was a nonprofit until 2008, maybe 2009. It was the biggest
IPOs. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. but it was a nonprofit until then.
Yeah.
A nonprofit like the NFL is a nonprofit. It makes a lot of money, but it's owned by the constituents, and the constituents that own Visa were the banks. And it's like, okay, I'm starting a payment company. There were a lot of payment companies that came before, but it's like, let's find this guy who's 90 years old, who's moved outside of capitalism, is working as a farmer just to learn from him. And like, I have this mental model that I now use for entrepreneurs, and it's a memo that I've written that we use internally a lot. I got to say, like, the best entrepreneurs, they have 5 things that I look for. They can materialize labor, capital, and customers, and hopefully those are self-evident. It's like you can get people to quit their high-paying job for like certain failure. It's like the Ernest Shackleton thing. It's like, wanted men for dangerous journey, almost certain failure and death, but if it worked, you might be famous, right? It's like you want that. Very, very hard to do. You have to find people that can materialize capital. It's like get people to give you money. And the best sign of future fundraising success, like if we do round N, we want to make sure there's going to be a round N plus 1, or you're going to be profitable on round N, which is unlikely. So are you good at fundraising? Can you get customers? Like imagine it's like, I have 2 weeks of cash left. Please be my first customer. I have none. Like it's very hard to pull that off.
Yeah.
Then you want to know the history of the space, which is super important to your point. You want that green flag version, not just the intermediate, what's the combination of green and red flag, like the
brown.
You don't want the turquoise or the whatever. Like you want the green flag. This person knows everything that's tried before, and they have a new angle of attack. They're not going to learn on the job. They've actually learned through history. And then the last thing that I care about a lot, everybody on my team knows this. My favorite book is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And it documents the story of this guy, Edmond Dantes, who's like wrongfully accused, is like in prison for 17 years, but then becomes the richest person in the world, but doesn't give a shit, right? It's like all the riches in the world do not matter. He wants revenge.
Yeah.
Right. So you could either, revenge kind of sounds bad, just like it's Old Testament-y, but you either want revenge or redemption. And some of the best entrepreneurs have this in common. And the reason why it's so important from a venture lens is imagine that you're a 20-year-old kid, you start a company, and somebody offers you, I don't know, $500 million to buy your company, and you own 25% of it. You're going to make over $100 million. You'd have to be insane to turn that down. Right?
Yeah.
And we need people that are insane, that actually are going for, it's not that we don't want people that aren't capitalists that don't care about money, but it's like they care about, if you've seen the movie Spaceballs, it's like, we're not doing this for the money. We're doing it for a shitload of money. A little different here. I'm doing it for another reason. And like a great example of this is there's this guy, Renaud Laplanche, who started a company called Lending Club.
Oh, yeah.
Very famous company at the time. There was like a dearth of IPOs, like Lending Club kind of gets to scale, goes public. He gets fired from his board, ousted from the company. He's probably made hundreds of millions of dollars. He's the Count of Monte Cristo. He's like, fuck those guys. I'm going to start a new company. I'm going to start an Upgrade. And you know what he called his new company? Upgrade. It does the exact same thing as Lending Club. It's probably 10 times the size of Lending Club now. And what's motivating him is not just the, hopefully, shit ton of money, Spaceballs quote, but he wants revenge.
Yeah.
He wants redemption. And you see this with some of the best entrepreneurs. Like, what is the driving motivation? And because when times get tough, like, you need something, because like there is no money. Like if your company's going to zero, if you're Ernest Shackleton in the winter of Antarctica, like your voyage is not successful, right? You need something else driving you at that point. And that's why that metal is something that I find extremely valuable.
Have you seen Spaceballs, Jordy?
I have not.
You got to. It's a great
I famously have seen like
he's seen no
movies.
He's not a cinephile. Last question.
One of my probably like I was going to say maybe it's hard to exactly place it. Top 10. Like I loved your episode on Invest Like the Best on operating systems. How is AI kind of like updating your thinking on moats and operating systems and how somebody can create a lot of value with a startup?
Yeah, well, I think, maybe I can rewind a little bit. And just because we announced this new fundraise, I can tell you exactly what we told our LPs in terms of like what we want to invest in at the application layer, because I do application layer stuff. And it's really 3 things. Category 1 is, I call it greenfield bingo. And kind of maybe another way of answering your question is, there's a quote that I use a lot. The best companies have hostages, not customers. Right? Like that's why nobody likes using Salesforce.
You got to be taking revenge. You got to be taking hostages.
It's very Old Testament stuff. But the best companies have hostages, not customers. Those are great companies to invest in, right? And that kind of goes to the point that I was making. Like, NetSuite, Workday, Salesforce, like they're all hated by their customers, but none of those customers can leave. However, if you build a better version, like kind of a more AI first version of all of these companies, and you're selling into the green field, you've got a shot, right? Because like I was lucky enough to be the first investor in Mercury, and Mercury worked not by stealing people from SVB. They just worked. It's like, oh, you're a brand new company. You can use shitty SVB or you can use really good Mercury. Yeah. And that worked. Whereas they never got customers from SVB until the weekend that SVB failed. Yeah. So that greenfield opportunity for software, like that is AI enabled in the same way that like that was true for cloud, right? That was true for mobile. It's like, here's the new thing. The incumbent will eventually build it. Like another expression that I use a lot is like the battle between every startup and incumbent is whether the startup gets the distribution before the incumbent gets the innovation. The incumbent, my default assumption is that the incumbent normally wins because they have the distribution. They will get their act together 3 years later. And with AI and Cursor and everything else, they'll get their act together maybe 3 weeks later. Yeah. So the kind of the might of distribution is very, very powerful. So one option is you just go into the greenfield. So that's kind of category one is, we call it greenfield bingo. It's just like build, we have a bet that's just like NetSuite. It's better, it's AI enabled, but they're not going to steal customers from NetSuite. They're just going to get greenfield. Category two is this kind of new, super exciting category of software does labor. And like there is no incumbent software product for, I don't know, trial attorneys. Like it's called Microsoft Office, but like Eve does that and does that really well. There's no incumbent software product for dental office receptionists, but Tenor does that and does that very well. So that's a really, these are all industries that I wouldn't say they've been untouched by software. They've been untouched by specialty software. And the reason why is because the market was perceived to be too small. And this is exactly what happened to SaaS. Like fintech really changed SaaS significantly because I'm sure you've heard of Toast. Toast is one of my favorite businesses. It's like Square, but it's only for restaurants. It's this whole operating system for restaurants. How many restaurants on their IBM PC Junior in 1984 use software? Like zero. Yeah. And how many of them would pay tens of thousands of dollars a year for software? Zero. But they all need payment processing. They all need payroll. They need these other services. You kind of bundle them in with software. And this is the really exciting thing about AI is you go say, hey, trial attorney, I want you to pay $50,000 a year for software. You said this 10 years ago. Like, no way. Like, we'll pay for Microsoft Word because we use it to write demand letters. Like, that's it. And now you can say, hey, we'll handle all these cases for you that you could not handle profitably. And that's AI plus software. Now they are software buyers. So that's category two. And then category three, I call the walled garden. And I wrote a post about this a little while ago. But walled garden businesses are amazing because if you assume that in the world that we live in today, and this is another way of thinking about kind of defensibility in AI, OpenAI has their sights kind of on everything, right? Like Anthropic probably has their sights on everything. It's so easy to build everything. So I don't know, have you guys heard of open evidence?
Yeah.
Okay, so I tore my Achilles in February. It's almost a year ago. It sucks, right? It's all better now.
Doing something fun?
It was. I was skiing in Japan.
There we go. That's a good reason. That's a good reason.
There we go. There we go. I went to the word. Tear my Achilles. What do? So I go to ChatGPT. I'm in like the clinic in Niseko, Japan, talking to this Scottish doctor, and he tells me, oh yeah, you only have surgery in the US. Nobody does it outside the US. I was like, this guy's on crack. Like, of course you have surgery to fix an Achilles. I go to ChatGPT, it tells me everything. Then I find this thing, Open Evidence, and it's like ChatGPT, but it has every single medical document in the world. And imagine that tomorrow ChatGPT 5.3 comes out, it's AGI, everybody agrees it's AGI, human race is over, but it has no medical data. And then on the other side, you have GPT 3.5, and it has every single piece of medical knowledge ever known to mankind. What would you rather use? And the answer, at least for me, and I did use this, is Open Evidence. And there's so many businesses that look like this where they find some proprietary piece of data. They're the only ones that have, because before you would have to sell data. That was like your only hope as a business. And like another example that I mentioned in this post, there's a company called Vlex. And Vlex is this like 25-year-old European data business that bought up, legal records in Spain to start, and they would sell it to firms like Wilson Sonsini that needed it for case law. Now they sell an outcome because they're the only ones that have all the records. So you can build a really interesting business if you're the only source of some unique form of data. And I love businesses like that because that's the other, sorry for being so long-winded here on the answer to your question, but the businesses that can be very, very large in AI that can grow very, very quickly, you still need to make sure that they're fundamentally defensible. And that's the really hard thing to disambiguate today. which is you can have things grow so quickly, but they can also go to zero so quickly because anybody can build software in like a weekend, which is both great and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the show and breaking it down.
Incredible overview.
Yeah. Really,
thanks, guys.
Really
great to meet you. Thanks for
We'll
coming
talk to you soon, Alex.
Congrats.
All right.
Have a great rest of your day. Let me tell you about Console.com. Console builds AI agents that automate 70% of IT, HR, and finance support, giving employees instant resolution for access requests and password resets. And up next, we have David George. We are running late. David, good to see you again.
Hey guys,
how are you doing?
Good to see you.
Congratulations
Great to see you.
all the progress. How does this change the growth practice? Is this just more of the same strategy, or can you do new things with this new fund?
It's more the same, honestly. First of all, I'm still like thrown off because I've worked with Rampell for 7 years and we're close friends. And I just realized that his favorite book is Count of Monte Cristo, and that's my favorite book.
No way.
Yeah,
it's a good one. Yeah, it's a great one.
No, more of the same for the growth fund. I mean, look, the last 7 years since we started it, it's been a pretty simple mandate. It's like best companies in the world, best founders in the world with huge ambitions. Typically, the bet that we're making is that it can be bigger than other people believe it can be. Packy wrote a whole long 16,000 word essay about this today. But if I were to summarize our views and what defines quintessential growth investment for us, it's a belief that it can be bigger than people would realize. And we got a ton of success stories on that. So more of the same in terms of our strategy. And it just so happens that we're on the back of like the best trend of my lifetime.
Do you think there's something changing in the psychology of startup founders where the new crop of mega corns, the SpaceXs, it sort of gives the next generation permission to stay private longer? Maybe, hey, previously it was maybe $100 billion IPO would be crazy big. Now we're maybe having a few $1 trillion IPOs happening soon. All of a sudden, logically, even if you're not in that category, you're like, I'll stay private until 100 billion. Is the psychology changing for founders?
Yeah, it is changing. I'm going to talk about the psychology of founders in two different ways. So one that I'm more excited about, like we can talk about capital markets and public markets and private markets. The thing I'm more excited about is the psychology of the founders that has changed post-COVID. Like this generation of founders is just way more hardcore. Like I for one am all for, the being back in the office, the working really hard, unabashed, pursuit of success. And I think it's a big change, like in the last 5 or 6 years that's happened. I think it's part of what's propelling these companies to be so good so fast. Obviously, AI is the big technological driver, but I think the vibe shift is a huge part of it. We were looking last night at some stats and going back and forth on some of our best companies. And we have a bunch of the AI native companies that are application companies that are kind of 100 million plus, 100 million to $1 billion of revenue. And we were looking at, do we think they're running themselves differently? So to this point of like, different vibes, what they care about. And it turns out like the old rule of thumb for companies was, if you look at like revenue divided by all their employees, it's like $400,000 of revenue per employee. Like you look at like public software companies, that's kind of where it shakes out. All these AI native companies, they were basically like 500,000, 900,000, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, 5 million. So they're totally different. I think they're being run totally differently. We're really excited about that. And the biggest thing is just like there's a tsunami of demand coming their way, which I think enables them to run, much, much faster. So I'm super excited about that. As it relates to the capital markets thing, the staying private longer, it's totally rational. Look, there's a bunch of it that is our own, sort of government doing as it relates to being a public company and how difficult and expensive that has become. We have a robust private market. It's been a benefit to us. It's allowed us to invest in a bunch of companies that otherwise would have gone public, sooner, when we can still invest in them and they're growing really fast. And the value proposition for founders is pretty good to be a private company. They can stay private. It's probably a little bit of a higher cost of capital for them. But the trade-off for them is, they can sort of avoid the daily kind of volatility of the stock price and what that means for paying.
And more M&A options as well. There's a lot.
What is your day like? What are your weeks like? Because I imagine like the balancing and like prioritizing when
most of it's
like,
adding zeros to spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to add.
The model's breaking. The model's breaking. No, but I imagine it's hard to prioritize when you can write everything from like a $100 million check up to at times like
multi-billion-dollar rounds are coming together. Yeah.
Multi-billion-dollar rounds are coming together. Like how do you prioritize your day and your week?
Yeah, I mean, the reason we raised this fund that's a little bit larger, one, it's a reflection of the opportunity set, and two, we want to be able to say, hey, we can write $1 billion check into a company directly out of the fund. And we have resources to be able to do more than that beyond it, but that was a big part. If we're high conviction in a company, we want to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. There's not very many of those. And so, we have to use our time wisely. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, given our brand and given our coverage, we're able to see most things. We're able to meet a lot of entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And so, we see, probably as a firm, hundreds of deals or investment opportunities or companies a week. Yeah. And then, we have the luxury of getting to kind of matchmake with the ones that want to work with us that we think are really special. After this, I just, was texting with a founder and he was like, he kind of cracked open the door that he might do a fundraise.
Okay.
And I'm like, great. All right. I'll meet you in our office.
In a couple minutes.
Let's meet in our office at 4:00. Like, we got to do it. So the way I try to spend my time is like, the thing that gives me the most energy is to meet those founders and make investments.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you get back to chasing deals. Good luck with that particular founder. Hopefully that founder will be on the show ringing the gong in just a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with this new fund. It
some big
feels
moves.
Like preparation, timing, opportunity. Yeah. This is going to be an amazing chapter.
Well, have a great rest of your day, David. Good to catch up with you. We'll see you.
Cheers.
And up next, we have Ben Horowitz, the founder of Andreessen Horowitz, the Horowitz in Andreessen Horowitz. Ben, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good. How are you guys?
We're fantastic. Massive news today. Congratulations. Obviously, we'll get into the fund structure. I'm sure we'll have a bunch of questions there. I wanted to kick it off with a reflection on your book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. What is the one piece of advice that you think has aged particularly well from that? What has never changed? And then maybe you could take me through some things that might have changed in this era, bigger companies, AI. What do you go back to, and what do you maybe think needs an update?
Yeah, well, I think it's still like really hard to be an entrepreneur. And one of my favorite quotes in the book is something Mark said to me, when things were extremely bad. He said, one day we'll look back on this, chuckle nervously, and change the subject.
I think some of us have seen those
basically how it felt.
Yeah.
Another thing he would always say is things get darkest before they go completely black.
Yeah, I mean, it's underrated how long you two have been in partnership beyond just this firm. You've worked together for so long.
30 years. Yeah.
30 years. What a run! An overnight success, a true overnight success, if there ever was one. How do you two like to work together now? How's the day-to-day working at the firm?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it works pretty well. I mean, we have pretty different roles. So I run the firm, and then, Mark is kind of, in a lot of ways, the face of the firm. And he also, he gets very deep on specific things. So policy, AI are kind of the two things that he's like super focused on right now.
Yeah.
And he has many, many ideas about, running the firm, and I have many ideas about things he does. And so, it's very collaborative, I would just say.
Yeah.
And, we argue all the time about everything.
That's great. As any good partnership does.
Sometimes he's right, sometimes I'm right.
Yeah. Well, how is the structure of running the firm? How is the structure of the firm changing in this era? Obviously, the numbers are bigger, but on the fundraising side, but maybe not on the team side. What's changing? Is there anything that you've felt like this technology shift requires different management of the firm?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that, what's happened is we have such a powerful new technology platform that the number of really important companies that will be created out of it has just multiplied. Interesting. And like the tech industry itself used to just not be that big.
Yeah.
And now the tech industry is all industry.
Yeah.
And that change is kind of what really changed the architecture of the firm. So originally, we looked like every other venture firm. We were, a team of venture investors. We were a little different in that we had a more elaborate platform.
Yeah.
But now what we've done is we've kind of subdivided the technology market into all of its sub-markets. So, infrastructure, applications, crypto, early stage stuff, bio, these kinds of things, American dynamism. And each of those teams is basically looks like the original Andreessen Horowitz, but they're independent of each other.
Yeah.
And that enables us to both kind of cover the whole market in a very, very serious way, but also be nimble and not have, you don't want 20 people in a room talking about a deal.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to the truth like that. Just in my management experience, it turns out you can't have a conversation with 20 people.
Yeah.
You can have a presentation.
How do you think about empowering the firm or the sub-teams to become subject matter experts and actually investigate and prosecute deal theses in entirely new markets where no one in the firm might have ever done an oil and gas deal or a solar deal or some bio thing that's entirely new? And you have a team, but there's new markets forming and new markets coming online as potential transformation targets for technology. How are you keeping the firm sharp on every corner of the global economy?
Yeah, so a lot of times, there are super experimental things that we'll look at, but we don't necessarily kind of build the organization around yet. And then, but once we commit the flag, then that, our big commitment would be, okay, we'll create a fund around it. So we did that with crypto. We made the Coinbase investment before we had the crypto fund, but then as we got into it, we said, well, this is going to be a larger market and it's super different than everything we're doing. So we need to commit around that. More recently, with AI, like the way you build AI companies, the nature of the AI founder is just so different than everything that we've seen before that we ended up bringing in a lot of expertise from the outside. We kind of reoriented everybody on the inside. Like we actually had, a huge amount of training materials and basically exams to make sure that, everybody who was working on that was what we call AI native and understood all aspects of it before getting into it, just because, these things do tend to be different. And this is why you see a lot of people age out of venture capital and then a lot of kind of firms be not what they once were. They were very important in 2015, but they didn't necessarily make the transition. They didn't bring in the right kind of talent.
Yeah. As when you're managing the firm, how do you think about the dividing lines and the walls between different funds? We've seen just with the neo clouds, a lot of those folks started as crypto companies. Then they became AI companies, but they're building things at such massive scale. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in an American dynamism portfolio because they're sort of reindustrializing. So are you the person that the firm, that one of the subdivision leaders comes to say, hey, I want this in my fund? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's not that much conflict in that, the categories are pretty clear. There are, it happens occasionally where they bump into each other, but, for the most part, it's like, what are you really trying to do? And then the entrepreneur will gravitate towards one of the funds based on what they're trying to do. We want to sell things to the government.
Yeah.
Okay, that's likely going to go into American dynamism. Whereas, okay, we've got 8 PhDs in AI. That's almost certainly going to end up in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Kind of model world and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's really matching the funds are. You think about markets of entrepreneurs, and the funds are designed to address that market of entrepreneurs, and those tend to be fairly distinct. Now, sometimes people will try to game us and they'll get rejected by one part and then they'll go to the other. Okay. We have very, very, very good comprehensive data on everything we've seen. We've got extremely good systems, so we catch those people. That's good to know.
When did you realize a $15 billion fund was possible? Did you imagine this kind of scale was possible from inception, or was it did you build?
Yeah, our first fund was $300 million, so we definitely weren't thinking about it then. We thought 300 million was a lot, and people, thought we were raising too big a fund in 2009.
Yeah.
But no, like what we've done is we've kind of looked at the markets and said, okay, how big is this market, and then what kind of fund do we need to kind of win in that market? And generate a large return. And we tend to have a relatively optimistic view of the future. I think there are some like cynical VCs out there and like, when I was a boy, valuations weren't this high.
It's just like play the game on the field.
We like to look forward and not look backwards. Yeah. And so as a result, like something, I think we have done a good job of getting ahead of the game. Like when we raised Fund 3, which was $1 billion, we got a lot of criticism from other funds going like, that's crazy. No $1 billion fund has ever returned money. Yardy. And we're like, well, okay, but like the world didn't look like this and software is eating the world and things are getting bigger. And we think that like we can deploy $1 billion. And, that fund, had Coinbase and Databricks and Lyft and DigitalOcean and GitHub and like a lot of big outcomes. Yeah. And if we didn't have that much money, it'd be a problem.
Yeah. On that note of optimism and understanding the scale of the internet as it eats the entire world, how did you process the bubble talk that took place in the back half of 2025?
Well, I was CEO during another bubble.
Yeah.
So I know a lot about bubbles. Look, I think that... there's a couple of things that I learned from the bubble that we were in. One was
sorry to distract. we keep a bubble gun handy.
Yeah, look, one of the things, if you look back at that bubble, there were a lot of things that were present then that are definitely not present now. So, like probably the biggest being the internet. Everybody knew the internet was going to be giant. Mm-hmm. But at the time that everybody was investing all the money, the internet was very, very small. So if you go back to 1996, at Netscape, we had 90% browser share and, we had $50 million in revenue. So the entire, or we had 50 million users. So the entire number of people on the internet was 55 million.
Yeah.
So you're funding these companies and giving them a $10 billion valuation, selling into a market of 55 million people. Yeah. And then half of those were on dial-up, so it was limited in what you could do. Yeah. And so those valuations were running way, way, way ahead of the technology is kind of what caused the bubble. Mm-hmm. If you look at AI, the technology is like working and getting to the world right now. Mm-hmm. Like how many people are on ChatGPT? And, how's that business going? It had, I think, 0 revenue in November of 2022. And I don't know what the current number is, but it's probably between 15 and 20 billion.
Yeah.
We've never seen that before. So the things are working, like the things that were bubblicious in 99 aren't quite the same. But, to me, the biggest thing that I learned was right before the bubble burst, nobody thought it was a bubble. Mm. Warren Buffett, who had never invested in any tech in early 2000s, started investing in tech. So everybody capitulated and agreed prices would never go down. That's what you need to get to a bubble. It's a psychological phenomenon, not a financial phenomenon. And so, right now with everybody talking about a bubble, I was like, oh, great, we're not in a bubble. Because it's when nobody believes it's a bubble that it becomes a bubble. Same with the financial crisis, by the way. If you look at the price, the kind of interest you pay on like home loan debt in 2007, it was the lowest in history.
Yeah.
right before it all came crashing down.
When it should have been the highest.
Right before everybody defaulted.
Yeah.
It was the lowest in history, and that's because it was a bubble, because everybody believed, hey, they're not building any more land anymore, that's what's going on. And so once you get into that kind of psychological convergence, that's when you really get into like a really crazy bubble. Now, look, in venture capital, everything is always priced at either half or double what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the steady state.
Mm-hmm.
And so are there going to be things that are, priced way too high? Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of land, how are you processing the move out of California, the news in California of the wealth taxes? A lot of folks are saying that, California might shoot themselves in the foot, kill the golden goose. How have you been processing the news?
Yeah, I mean, so it's very kind of like an interesting kind of view of the world. I think that the the groups in California have been kind of pushing this idea. So, I go all over the world. I've met, like in the last year, the president of Mexico, the president of El Salvador, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. So like, I'm always with world leaders, or I've spent a lot of time with them, and they always want to know, like, how do we create Silicon Valley here? Mm-hmm. And when you look at
Silicon
Valley,
a golden goose. We like your golden goose. We want one. Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable that, like, we've repeatedly created companies with larger kind of GDP than most countries. Like, routinely, we've done that. And so rather than asking, like, how did we do that? It's like, well, how can we, like, rearrange it and, run an experiment and see if it destroys it or not? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's probably the weirdest part of it for me, that people would think about it that way. Like, I mean, if you start confiscating wealth and, taxing unrealized capital gains for people who aren't liquid, like, so actually we saw this in Norway. So Norway has an unrealized capital gains tax. And Norway's got a lot of extremely smart people, great entrepreneurs, but they all left. Mm. And when you talk to entrepreneurs in Norway, they're like, well, I literally can't pay the tax because the company got marked up to whatever, $1 billion, $2 billion, and I own a lot of it, and I can't get that money out. It's a private company, and so I'm stuck. So I have to leave the country. And there are no entrepreneurs. There is basically no tech entrepreneurs in Norway now. Wow. And if you wanted to it's been so hard to break the Silicon Valley network effect, but this is the best strategy I've seen. If you wanted to wreck the California tech ecosystem.
How are you processing? How it feels like today we have this incredible optimism within the technology industry, this incredible excitement, and then outside of the technology, your neighbor or somebody nearby has like this. It feels like there's real tension and kind of fear from broader society about the work that is being done within the technology industry. And you see interviews that AI leaders will give where they'll say we're summoning the demon, or they'll say not
the most optimistic storytelling.
We're going to end the world will end, but we're going to create some great companies. So I think people like these interviews and these quotes spread so quickly. A lot of people have heard them, and the question from the broader populace is like, "Hey, do we need to do this?
What's the optimistic vision?
Yeah, or can we stop? Right? And obviously, technology is proven to be somewhat inevitable, relentless.
Yeah. So, I think the good news is it speaks to the importance of the moment. So this is on the order of the microprocessor, the steam engine, or something, or electricity, or something like that. So. And those things all turned out to be like really good for humanity.
Was there that much with electricity? Was there like the level of fear around job loss? Because there was people that would like go, and obviously I know the stories of people that would like their job was to light the lamps, right? But
like if you go back and read about the beginning of electricity, it's wild. Well, they made a law when automobiles first came out. There was a law in the United States that said, if you're driving your car and you see a horse, you have to stop the car, disassemble it, and wait for the horse to pass.
Disassemble.
Like it was that level. That was the regulatory idea. So, Yeah, I mean, I think by the way, watches were the same. You know, when watches came out, there was like huge fear that like people would never be able to have a conversation again because they'd be just checking the time always. And so, these technologies like generate a lot of fear. But I think that, the good news on it is, this one is really important. I think that the impact into the well-being of humanity is going to be bigger than certainly anything in my lifetime. And, one of our bigger problems, I think, is there are people in the industry going for regulatory capture who kind of feed into the
fear.
To the fear. And then, there are also people who have just, it's moving so fast that it's actually freaked them out who are working on it. And that's...
How do you advise? How do you advise portfolio founders or even people at the firm around processing noise? I think historically, there wasn't like this constant chatter, right? We have like X now, which is like a constant, stream of consciousness from millions of people that are sharing their opinion. And it's, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that, one day everybody's saying that they're the greatest thing ever, and then the next day, people start to criticize. And how do you kind of like, what guidance do you give there?
Yeah, well, I think that the world of media changed. And I think it's tricky for people and companies to process, because if you grew up in marketing or in old media, your whole concept of the laws of physics is different. So in old world, you were always thinking defensively because there were very few channels to get your message out. The format was very tight. You could get a quote in here, or you could get a few sentences before the host cut you off or whatever. You guys watch CNN from time to time. Yeah. And so in that world, the way you would think about media is just let's make sure we don't say the wrong thing. Let's spend hours and hours crafting the message and so forth. In the new world, it's wide open. There's media everywhere. The formats are whatever you want it to be. And so the right kind of way to think about it is you have to be interesting, and don't worry about making a mistake, because you can just come back tomorrow and flood the zone, just keep going. And that, I think I found it very, very difficult to reorient somebody who has spent a career in old media world kind of thinking in a new media way. And so the biggest thing that I really talk to our CEOs about is you've got to approach you have to approach new media with new media thinking, new media people, that kind of thing. And it's a remarkably opposite world. It's it's like you're landing on Mars and you're like, well, what the fuck happened to gravity?
Different.
And you can't even say, well, no, gravity's different here, because it's no, gravity just is. I can't deal with the fact that that's just the truth.
Yeah. Well, we would love to keep talking about media.
Yeah.
There's very few things that we enjoy.
We should ring the gong.
But we know you got late fees if you're late to meetings. So this gong is for the whole a16z's team.
Congratulations.
And we won't keep you any longer, but come back on again soon, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to see you guys.
We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. And with that, we need to check in on the Anthropic Claude Code situation.
Eric just said that they're good for the $10. Tornberg. He's got he's 1 minute late to his next meeting.
Oh, okay.
It's a $10
fee. Oh, yeah, that's right. They have a late fee. Probably.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Andreessen Partners, if they're late to if they're late,
phones too. If they have phones out, they get fined.
Yeah, no, but it's late if you're late to a meeting with a founder that you're looking to invest in, or you're just meeting. Sure. You got to pay if you're late.
That's fine. We should check in with Tyler. There were some rumblings about a change to Claude Code. Can you break it down?
Okay.
What happened?
So basically, what happened was, So when you get a Claude subscription, right? There's Pro and Max.
Yeah.
You get Claude Code credits, basically.
Sure.
And so what was going on was there's third-party harnesses. So there's one Open Code. There's a bunch of these.
Yeah.
And they would basically use the credits that you get from Claude Code or from your Claude subscription to use.
Yeah.
And it's they're open source agentic harnesses, whatever.
Sure.
So Anthropic stopped that. So you can't use your you can't use your subscription as like the credits. So you have to use the actual API.
The actual API. Okay.
That's like the main thing. It's like not. To me, it doesn't seem that crazy of a thing because you can still use it with the API. It's more expensive.
Is it an exchange rate thing maybe? Like if I'm on Claude Pro or Claude Max, am I getting on a per dollar basis more tokens than I would if I
Yes, so that's why there's like a lot of
arbitrage,
for that, right? Because
they were getting arbed.
Yeah,
and they said no more arbing us.
You can think of like Claude Code is going to get much better if more people use it, right? Because it's like an RL environment, basically.
Sure.
So the value of the data.
So they shouldn't be incentivizing people to go elsewhere, but they are still allowing people to go elsewhere, just at the consistent rate, API rate.
Yeah. So you can still it's like bring your own key. You can do that.
Okay, that doesn't seem like too bad.
It's not that crazy, but people are very mad. They're canceling their Claude.
People are mad at Claude. Yeah. So sad. Oh well, I'm sure that they will figure it out, and the fun will continue. We do have to cover another story in the AI world. Logan Kilpatrick, friend of the show over at Google, he said, "I'm happy to share that we, the Google AI Studio team, are now sponsoring Tailwind CSS, the project that had to lay off 3 people, and it was very dramatic because it was 75% of the team, but their business model was not really working because they were selling templates, which of course could be assembled by AI agents in the modern era."
Yeah, I love this.
Logan said, "Honored to support and find ways to do more together to help the ecosystem of builders." And I said, "You drop this, king." And I gave him the crown, Mario holding the crown. If you scroll down, you should see it.
This is great.
That's me.
I expected this to happen pretty quickly. I'm
pixelated
glad Logan made this move, and I think a handful of others did as well. Hopefully Tailwind can hire back the handful of engineers that they were forced to let go. This should give them some more predictability while they figure out the next chapter.
Yeah. Well, in other news, OpenAI is reserving $50 billion for a stock grant pool. Jack Rain says $500 billion company doing $13 billion in revenue, projecting $50 billion in equity comp is so good. So price of AI
SF real estate is going up.
Price of the AI researcher going up, but they have the money to distribute. That is a big equity pool. But it's an opportunity to join pre-IPO, get some shares, and hopefully do well for yourself. Well, thank you so much for watching the show and tuning in today. We will be back
first
11
week
a.m.
in the books
Pacific on Monday.
Only
Leave us
3
5 stars
more
Apple
sleeps
Podcasts,
until we're back.
Spotify, and subscribe to our newsletter at tbpn.com. And with that, we'll say goodbye and have a great weekend.
Have an amazing weekend.
Thank you for watching.
We love you.
See you
Cheers.
Monday. Goodbye.